Chapter 559. Compared with the jubilation of the Tang family, the Yao family was gloomy. After Yao Qingzuan sent his son Yao Qingqing out, he thought that the Tang family would be miserable. After all, the Amur tiger was following them. However, while Yao Qingzuan was quietly waiting for the news, another piece of information was sent to him. A fire broke out in the Jibail amusement park in the Quoto district. Originally, with Yao Qingzuan's identity, a fire in an area of the imperial capital would not attract his attention at all. He would even be too lazy to care about such a trivial matter. But today was different, because the place where the Yao family and the Tang family were fighting was in the Jibail amusement park. After receiving the news, Yao Qingzuan immediately contacted his son Yao Qingqing, but the result made his heart sink. Because his son's mobile phone was turned off, and the mobile phones of all the people who went with him were also turned off. If only one person's mobile phone was turned off, he might not care, but dozens of people's mobile phones were all turned off. This was a big problem. Therefore, he immediately ordered the Yao family members who were paying attention to the situation there to immediately investigate. As a result, his son Yao Qingqing and the Amur tiger led dozens of experts of the Yao family into the haunted house of the Jibail amusement park, including his grandson Yao Xinhua and dozens of Yao family members. They didn't come out of the haunted house until the fire burned it to the ground. All dead. This was the conclusion that the Yao family sent people to investigate. And this conclusion made all the senior members of the Yao family dumbfounded and frightened. "Dad, what should we do?" Yao Qingdong had just returned from outside when he heard the bad news. Looking at his father who seemed to have aged a lot in an instant, he still felt a chill all over his body even though he was a high-ranking official. Although Yao Qingzuan had experienced countless storms in his life, this huge loss, the death of his son and grandson, was something he could not bear. Looking at his second son's nervous face, he did not speak for a long time. "What should we do? What can we do now?" The Amur tiger was simply an immortal-like expert. Even he died in the hands of the Tang family, indicating that the Tang family must have a very terrible person. This kind of person was absolutely not someone their Yao family could resist. Moreover, he had not figured out what the real background of the Tang family was. If the Tang family had been quietly developing all these years and had now developed to the point where they could clean up the Yao family, then the future of the Yao family would be worrying. After a long while, Yao Qingzuan secretly sighed and bitterly said, "Investigate the Jibail amusement park first. No matter who did it, we have to get to the bottom of it." "All right, I'll arrange it right away." Yao Qingdong didn't have a good idea and could only nod and agree. Tang family ancestral residence. After Tang Guosheng made a few phone calls, he returned to the courtyard. His expression was a little ugly, and he sat on the chair with his brows furrowed. He didn't say anything for a long time. The dozen or so core members of the Tang family looked at each other in dismay. They did not understand what kind of problem the old man had encountered to make him show such an expression. In the end, it was Tan Xiu who broke the silence and asked, "Grandfather, are you in trouble?" Tang Guosheng silently raised his head and looked at Tan Xiu's tranquil expression. He forced a smile and said, "I'm indeed in trouble." That person usually turns a blind eye to the disputes between the top families in the imperial capital. Even the neutral parties rarely intervene. But just now, in my conversation with those people, they don't want our Tang family to make any big moves, and even more so, they don't want to cause a huge upheaval in the country. There's even a bit of threat in their words. If our Tang family moves against the Yao family with a thunderous momentum, I'm afraid we'll encounter a lot of resistance. Tan Xiu slightly furrowed his brows. After a long time of silence, he said, "Grandfather, how about I pay a visit to those people?" "What do you mean?" asked Tang Guosheng with a slightly moved expression. "I remember an old saying that those who obey me will prosper, and those who oppose me will perish," said Tan Xiu calmly. "If they don't want to accept the benefits offered by our Tang family, then we'll solve it with force." Tang Guosheng waved his hand and said, "Xiu, our Tang family will never do that unless it's a last resort." As the #1 leader, he has made a lot of great achievements since he took office, and all of them are for the sake of the country. The struggles between our families are just trivial matters, so we can't make things difficult for him. Furthermore, given the Yao family's status, it's bound to cause a huge upheaval in the country if we make a move. This is also the reason why the Yao family has been unwilling to tear all decorum with our Tang family for so many years, and only kept having small frictions with us in the dark. Having said that, he shook his head and sighed. Yao Qingzuan has been my rival for a lifetime, and we both know each other very well. It's just that he's old and muddle-headed. In fact, even if you didn't lead your men to act, the Yao family won't be able to completely eliminate our Tang family. At most, they can only make us suffer heavy losses. Because, he won't allow it. Tan Xiu stared blankly and asked with a puzzled expression, since that Amur tiger has taken action, does he have a way to restrain him? I've fought against the magnificent China, and there are many strange people and strange things happening there, said Tang Guisheng with a meaningful expression. It's just that those people are either roped in or hidden, so they won't show their faces in public. When I was working in the state's secret vault, I secretly read several special top-secret documents. I know those documents, but Yao Qingzuan doesn't. I dare say that there are at most 3 or 4 leaders who know these top-secret documents, and those 3 or 4 people are all figures who have served as the #1 leader. Tan Xiu's expression slightly changed, and he instantly understood what Tang Guisheng meant. After a while. If that's the case, then let's make it simple, said Tan Xiu. Grandpa, you'll announce to the public that you're unwell and recuperate at home starting from today. Our Tang family's people will do whatever they need to do, and I'll solve the Yao family's matter. How are you going to solve it? Asked Tang Guisheng quickly. If I remember correctly, Yao Qingzuan is already 83 years old this year, right? Tan Xiu said with a smile. He has lived to such an old age, so it's worth it. What? Tang Guisheng's expression changed, and disbelief was written all over his face. Even the other Tang family members in the surroundings were also dumbfounded, as they understood Tan Xiu's meaning. Kill Yao Qingzuan. The smile on Tan Xiu's face disappeared and was replaced with a bit of ruthlessness. He then said in a deep voice, Yao Qingzuan is the pillar of the Yao family. If he's gone, this pillar will also be gone. Yao Qingqing and Yao Qingdong are the next successors of the Yao family, and they are the only ones who are in charge of the Yao family now. Yao Qingqing is dead, and only Yao Qingdong is left. A single log cannot make a boat. The Yao family is not far from declining. Tang Guisheng was silent for a moment. He then slowly nodded and said, we can do it, but we must do it secretly. Are you sure about it? No problem, Tan Xiu nodded without hesitation. The night was hazy. 2 ghostly figures silently appeared in the Yao family's ancestral residence. Almost without any effort, Tan Xiu and Dark appeared outside the house where Yao Qingzuan lived. Puff! Puff! Sharp daggers tore the throats of 2 experts of the Yao family hiding outside the house and stuffed their bodies into a dark corner. Cough, cough, the coughing sound inside the house indicated that Yao Qingzuan had not fallen asleep yet. Come in. Tan Xiu slightly nodded and closed the door the moment he opened it. In a flash, Tan Xiu and Dark appeared in front of Yao Qingzuan's bed. Get up and talk if you're not asleep. Tan Xiu's voice was very calm. The moment Yao Qingzuan opened his eyes, he had already walked to the rattan chair opposite the bed and sat down, lighting a cigarette for himself. Yao Qingzuan abruptly sat up with a horrified look in his eyes. He turned on the bedside lamp and shouted after seeing Tan Xiu and Dark, who are you? Tang Xiu raised his finger to his cheek and lightly smiled, you should be able to recognize this face of mine, right? Or should I not be the one you hate the most in your heart? Yao Qingzuan's pupils shrunk. After seeing Tan Xiu's face, he coldly said, you're Tan Xiu. That's right, it's me. A smile outlined on the corner of Tan Xiu's mouth as he took another puff. Yao Qingzuan was silent for more than 10 seconds before he slowly closed his eyes that were filled with despair. After a while, he opened his eyes again and bitterly said, can you tell me a question? Who killed my son and grandson? And, the Amur tiger. Who else in the Tang family has this kind of ability other than me? Tan Xiu lightly smiled. You're right. Yao Qingzuan nodded and said, all the information of the Tang family is in my bedside cabinet. They don't have this kind of ability. Speak. Did you come here tonight to take my old life? You're an old man who doesn't die. Tan Xiu exclaimed. You've lived for more than 80 years. Although you're muddle-headed sometimes, you're also very shrewd sometimes. That's right. This day next year will be the anniversary of your death. That's why I came here this time. Yao Qingzuan let out a bitter smile. He straightened his chest and said, kill me if you want. Do you have any wishes? Asked Tan Xiu with a smile. You can tell me and I'll definitely help you achieve it. Of course, my grandpa also said that although you've been fighting with him all your life, he doesn't want you to die without dignity. I won't let you suffer before your death. Yao Qingzuan was silent for a while and then said, I can die, but can you let the rest of my family go? No problem, of course, said Tan Xiu. But I also have a condition. What is it? Asked Yao Qingzuan. Make Yao Qingdong resign, said Tan Xiu. Do you want to push my Yao family to the point of no return? Yao Qingzuan angrily shouted. Is this also considered as being forced to the point of no return? Tan Xiu coldly snorted. You've racked your brains to find the Amur tiger in an attempt to drive my Tang family out of China. Isn't that even worse? Yao Qingzuan's breathing suddenly stagnated after hearing it. Tan Xiu was right. The Tang family was a big family. If they were forced to leave China to fend for themselves abroad, their fate would not be much better. I'll make the call. The early bird gets the worm. Asking for monthly votes and recommendation votes _. Chapter 560. Yao Qingdong was nearly 50 this year, and his children had already graduated from college. As a feudal lord, he usually had his own house when he returned to the imperial capital, and it was a high-end villa in a certain high-end villa area. In the past. It was late at night, and he should have fallen asleep long ago. He should have looked for the Duke of Zhou to drink tea and have a golden millet dream. But today, he couldn't sleep. In the past, for the position of the Yao family's patriarch, he and his elder brother Yao Qingqing had secretly competed against each other. Both of them were definitely thorns in each other's eyes. Even if the thought of getting rid of each other was very small, it was still there. But today, his big brother was killed, which was hard for him to accept. In the future, there would no longer be anyone competing for the position of the Yao family's patriarch. It would be a piece of cake for him to become the future Yao family's patriarch. But, he also realized a serious problem. If the Yao clan declined, even if he became the head of the Yao clan, what could he do? Ring, 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 the urgent ringtone of the cell phone interrupted Yao Qingdong's thoughts and startled him. When he grabbed the phone and saw the caller ID, his expression suddenly changed. He hurriedly answered the call and said, Dad, are you looking for me? Yao Qingzuan's voice came from the phone, Qingdong, promise me one thing. Yao Qingdong asked in confusion, what is it? Yao Qingzuan said, quit your current job and come back to the capital to take charge. Yao Qingdong was stunned, and then his face changed greatly. He jumped up from the chair and hurriedly shouted, Dad, what are you talking about? My current position is very important. How can I resign so easily? Our Yao family. Yao Qingzuan interrupted Yao Qingdong and said in a deep voice, our Yao family is now in a precarious situation. If you don't come back, it will be very difficult for our family to get through this crisis. Don't ask me why I want you to do this. I have my own difficulties. Yao Qingdong hurriedly asked, Dad, you can tell me if you have any difficulties. Yao Qingzuan interrupted Yao Qingdong again and said in a deep voice, don't ask anymore. Remember my words. Quit your current job as fast as possible and go back to the ancestral mansion in the imperial capital. Also, don't be enemies with the Tang family in the future. Try to ease the relationship between the two families. Finished. Yao Qingzuan hung up and turned off his phone. Looking at Yao Qingzuan's resolute expression, Tan Xiu nodded and praised, "You're indeed worthy to be the Yao family's patriarch. You're resolute and resolute. I'll give you half an hour. It's best if you deal with it yourself." Yao Qingzuan was silent for a moment. His whole person seemed to have aged a lot. He slowly walked to the bedroom cupboard, opened the drawer, and took out a medicine bottle. Then, he poured a glass of water and poured out all the sleeping pills. He turned around and looked deeply at Tan Xiu, then swallowed all the sleeping pills in his hand. The winner takes all. Since my Yao clan has lost, I have nothing to complain about. I hope you can give our Yao family some face and let our descendants live on. If your Tang family still can't vent your anger, you can chase my Yao family's descendants out of the imperial capital, even if you want to chase them out of Huaxia country. Tan Xiu's heart was a little complicated, but he still hardened his heart and nodded. The Yao family and the Tang family were old enemies, and the Tang family had suffered a lot under the Yao family's oppression for so many years. Although none of the Tang family's direct descendants died in the hands of the Yao family, the Tang family's vassal families and a large number of talents cultivated by the Tang family had died in the hands of the Yao family. In the past, the Yao family's shadow was very likely involved in his father's matter. Tan Xiu watched as Yao Qingzuan returned to the bed and pulled the quilt to lie down. He then took out a pack of cigarettes from his pocket, lit it up, and took 2 deep puffs. Then, he waved his hand. Whoosh, Dark's figure instantly disappeared. After smoking a cigarette, Tan Xiu slowly got up. He looked at Yao Qingzuan's unconscious appearance and murmured, "You just said that the winner takes all. It's an unchanging truth. Since you wanted to go against the Tang family, you should be aware of the consequences of losing. Your son and grandson are already waiting for you down there, so you won't be lonely down there." That night, aside from the interlude of Tan Xiu's arrival, everything seemed calm and peaceful in the Yao family's ancestral mansion. Even Yao Qingdong, who rushed to the ancestral mansion late at night, stood outside the door of the old patriarch's room and didn't dare to step inside. Early in the morning, Yao Qingdong, who had been waiting outside for most of the night, frowned and looked at the door. It was reasonable to say that the old patriarch should have woken up at this time. How come there was no movement today? Ah, a cry of alarm came from the small courtyard next door. Yao Qingdong's expression slightly changed. He strode to the small courtyard next door and saw the panic-stricken housekeeper sitting paralyzed on the ground. Following her gaze, Yao Qingdong looked at the corner. What? 2 corpses were lying in the corner, and the blood had already coagulated. They were simply covered with a few pieces of newspaper, but it didn't cover their whole bodies. Yao Qingdong dashed to the 2 corpses and squatted down to examine them. He suddenly looked up and seemed to realize something. He dashed to the next courtyard and kicked open the door of the old patriarch's room. When he sprinted into the bedroom, he saw the old man lying flat on the bed, and his heart that was hanging in the balance was slightly relieved. "Dad, it's time to get up," Yao Qingdong called. There was no movement. Yao Qingzuan, lying flat on the bed, was motionless. Yao Qingdong was stunned. He knew that the quality of the old patriarch's sleep was very poor and he would wake up at the slightest movement. However, she had kicked open the door and called for him. Why was there no response at all? Yao Qingdong hesitated for a moment. Just when he was about to call again, he glanced at the counter next to him. A medicine bottle. He strode over, grabbed the medicine bottle in his hand, and looked at the instructions on the medicine bottle. His pupils instantly contracted. He rushed to the bed with a little panic and shouted, "Dad, wake up." There was no response. There was no response. Yao Qingdong's heart instantly jumped to his throat. He hurriedly put his hand under the old patriarch's nostril. To his horror, the old patriarch didn't breathe at all. Then he grabbed the old patriarch's wrist and put it on the old patriarch's chest. How can this be? The blood drained from Yao Qingzuan's face as he staggered back a few steps. 2 lines of tears rolled down his cheeks. The tears couldn't hide the pain in his eyes. Imperial capital, Tang family. Tan Xiu sat in front of Tang Guosheng, and Tang Guosheng. On both sides were Tang Yunpeng, Tang Yunda, Tang Yunqing, Tang Dong, Tang Min, and Tang Yan. Is he really dead? A complicated light flickered in Tang Guosheng's eyes, and his voice turned particularly deep. He's really dead. It's a suicide. Tan Xiu nodded. Tang Guosheng closed his eyes and slowly opened them after a long while. He got up and walked to the bookcase at the side. He took out a bottle of wine and sat back in the distance. Then, he poured the bottle of wine in front of him and muttered to himself, "Old geezer, we've been fighting for a lifetime. Now that you've gone ahead of me, I'll send you off as an opponent. I hope we won't be opponents again in the next life." Having said that, Tang Guosheng fiercely smashed the bottle. He suddenly looked up at Tan Xiu and said in a deep voice, "This matter ends here, Xiu. The Yao family's patriarch is dead and the Yao family has suffered heavy losses. Even if they want to shed all pretense of cordiality with our Tang family, I'm afraid they have lost the courage to do so." "There's something I must tell you in advance," said Tan Xiu. "What is it?" asked Tang Guosheng. "Yao Qingdong will soon resign from his current position and return to the imperial capital to take over the Yao family's patriarch position," said Tan Xiu. Tang Guosheng's eyes lit up and he quickly asked, "Did you do it?" "I did." Tan Xiu nodded. "Yao Qingzuan called Yao Qingdong before he died." Tang Guosheng rubbed his hands. An excited look appeared on his old face as he said, "Yao Qingdong is the only important person in the entire Yao family now. As long as he retires from his current position, the Yao family will be nothing to worry about." Tan Xiu let out a faint smile and clapped his hands. Suddenly, the door was opened from the outside. With a smile on his face, Guang handed a stack of documents to Tan Xiu and then left the room. "What's this?" Tang Guosheng raised his brows and curiously asked. The other members of the Tang family in the room also revealed curious expressions. They had no idea what the documents in Tan Xiu's hands were, nor did they know what kind of wishful thinking Tan Xiu had in mind. However, looking at the faint smile on Tan Xiu's face, they faintly felt that this document was very important to the Tang family. Tan Xiu handed the documents to Tang Guosheng and said, "Our Tang family and the Yao family didn't have such a big enmity before. But now, we have a blood feud. Even if we let the Yao family off this time, the Yao family will become bigger in the future, and I'm afraid they'll attack us. I think we need to do something to avoid trouble in the future." Tang Guosheng didn't ask again and read the documents together with Tang Guosheng and Tang Guoshou. The more they read, the more strange the expressions on their faces became. In the end, the 3 of them looked frightened. The sins of heaven can be forgiven, but the sins of one's own can't be avoided. If we publicize this information, I'm afraid the Yao family will be finished. As the saying goes, when a wall is down, everyone will push it. Yao Qingzuan is dead, and the Yao clan has suffered a heavy loss. If Yao Qingdong steps down from that position, with so many clans and forces in this document, won't the entire Yao clan be swallowed alive and destroyed? Tang Guosheng was silent for a long time before he couldn't help but sigh deeply. "That's right." Tang Guoshou also nodded and said, "There are only a few people who offer timely help, but there are countless people who add fuel to the fire. The Yao family has sown the evil karma, and they will eventually have to eat it themselves. I promised Yao Qingzuan that our Tang family will never act against the Yao family's descendants again," Tan Xiu said with a smile. "But if we don't act, others will have nothing to do with our Tang family. There's a saying that when the sandpiper and the clam fight, the fisherman benefits. Our Tang family will just sit and wait to divide the Yao family's wealth." Chapter 561. Time slipped away, and several days passed by in a hurry. In the end, the news of the death of the Yao clan's patriarch, Yao Qingzuan, was made known to the whole city. However, for the sake of the Yao family's reputation, they didn't announce to the public whether Yao Qingzuan was killed or committed suicide. Instead, they explained that he died of illness. In the end, the high-ranking leaders of the country chose to remain silent. However, they vaguely hoped that the Tang family wouldn't make any more excessive moves. Tan Shou didn't leave the imperial capital, but everyone from the everlasting feast hall had left. On Wangfujing Street, Tan Shou smoked a cigarette and looked at the shops on both sides, imagining the scene of Yao Qingzuan's funeral held by the Yao family today. He didn't go, but Grandpa Xing did. "Brother, that kid Chu Yi wants to drink with us, do you want to go?" Tang Wei had always been following Tan Shou like a dogskin plaster that couldn't be driven away. In Tang Wei's words, learning from Tan Shou would broaden his horizons. He even said that he wanted to find a way to get into Shanghai University and study with Tan Shou. If it weren't for Tan Shou's prohibition, he would probably have gone to Shanghai University to mess around. "No, ring, ring, ring." Before Tan Shou could finish his words, his phone rang and interrupted him. "I'm not in the mood to drink." After Tan Shou finished his sentence, he took out his phone to answer the call. "Kang Xia, what's up?" "Boss, there are two things. One is very good, and the other is not bad." "Which one do you want to hear?" Kang Xia's laughter came from the phone. Tan Shou said, "Let's listen to the very good one first." Kang Xia said with a smile, "The good news is that I can feel the airflow inside my body. It's warm and comfortable, and I can now control the airflow inside my body." Tan Shou's eyes lit up and he said with satisfaction, "Not bad, not bad. This is indeed great news. You work hard and try to catch up with Andy." "No problem. Now I'll tell you the second thing," Kang Xia said with a smile. "Our health products are all in stock, and we're just waiting for the official sales to start tomorrow. By the way, my flight is at 3:00 in the afternoon, so I can arrive in Shanghai before 5 o'clock. Tan Shou stared blankly for a moment before he suddenly realized that it was already the end of the month. It was also the time for the magnificent Tang Corporation's health products to hit the market. After hesitating for a moment, he said, "I'm still in the imperial capital, dealing with some important matters. How about this? I'll rush back to Demonic City soon, but I'm afraid I'll be a little later than you. After you get there, go straight to Blue Star Villa Complex and wait for me." "All right." Kang Xia smiled. After hanging up the phone, Tan Shou looked at Tang Wei and said, "I have something to do in Shanghai, so I have to return to Shanghai. I've almost dealt with the matters here in the imperial capital, so I won't come to the imperial capital for the time being if there's nothing particularly important. Our Tang family hasn't publicized that information. Don't you want to see the results in the imperial capital?" Tang Wei hesitated. Tan Shou said, "I can already foresee the result. Moreover, I don't understand politics, nor do I care about it. With Grandpa and the other elders in the family holding the fort, I think they can handle it well. However, there's something I haven't talked to you about, and I think it's time to talk about it now." "What is it about me?" asked Tang Wei curiously. "The number of people in our Tang family is nearly twice that of the Yao family," said Tan Shou. "And the number of people in our family who are involved in politics is even fewer. Once Grandpa and the others completely delegate power and first uncle takes over the Tang family, they're bound to train their successors from our generation. I think you should take this path for yourself, and also for our Tang family to have more power in the country in the future." Tang Wei was silent for a moment before he forced a smile and said, "But I really don't like politics." "It's fine if you don't like it. Just slowly cultivate your interest," Tan Shou said with a faint smile. "Our Tang family has already defeated the Yao family, so our family's power in China will be much bigger in the future. With the arrangement from the elders in the family, I'm sure you'll be able to go smoothly and become a new star in the political circle in the future, becoming a big shot in the political circle. You won't be able to experience the wonderful taste of power if you haven't obtained it. But you'll understand the benefits of power when you're in control. Give me some time to think about it," Tang Wei said helplessly. No problem, Tan Xiu said with a smile. In the afternoon, Tan Xiu returned to the Tang family's old man and rushed to the airport in a hurry. There was still more than an hour before the flight would take off, so he casually found a place and sat down to wait quietly. Hello, are you Mr. Tang, Tan Xiu? Just as Tan Xiu was idly chatting and reading a book, a middle-aged man in a suit who looked like a leader came to Tan Xiu with 4 or 5 airport staff behind him. I'm Tan Xiu, and you are? Tan Xiu was surprised. I'm an airport staff, Mr. Tang, said the middle-aged man quickly. We received a call from Mr. Tang Wei and know that you're going to take our flight to Shanghai. Also, I've already taken the initiative to help you upgrade your seat to the first-class cabin. If you're willing, how about waiting in the VIP lounge with me? What's going on? Tan Xiu blinked and finally accepted the other party's good intention. In the VIP lounge. It was a very comfortable environment with leather sofas on the seats. Since the middle-aged man had specially taken care of him, the airport staff even sent tea to Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu called Tang Wei and found out that the son of the Shanghai airport's person in charge was Tang Wei's childhood friend and had a very close relationship with him. He had asked his childhood friend to instruct him to make all these arrangements. Hurry up. You'll be fine inside. Along with a hurried voice, 2 figures rushed into the VIP lounge from the outside. Huh? Tan Xiu looked up. What he didn't expect was that one of the 2 people who rushed in turned out to be an acquaintance. Zhang Xinya. At this moment, Zhang Xinya was still in a state of shock. She quickly walked to the corner and sat down on the sofa. Then, she patted her chest and said to her agent, that was really scary. Those fans outside were a bit crazy, but I didn't expect that the airport staff would also be so enthusiastic. I'll never go out again if I don't disguise myself. Xinya, you're now a well-known superstar, said her agent with a smile. Especially with the recent song, Sleeping Beauty. It's simply explosive. You've been occupying the top spot on the major music charts, and your value is 4 to 5 times higher than the second place. The number of fans who like you is constantly increasing. You'll only get more and more popular in the future, even if you go abroad. It doesn't matter if I'm popular, but I'm afraid it won't be convenient for me to do anything in the future. Zhang Xinya forced a smile and said, sometimes, I really want to put down my celebrity identity to do something I want to do and see some people I want to see. Aren't the things you want to do and the people you want to see all on Mr. Tang's side? You rushed to Shanghai this time when the magnificent Tang Corporation released a new product. Wasn't it because you wanted to see if you would go to Shanghai's exclusive store? Don't talk nonsense. Zhang Xinya quickly grabbed her agent's arm and pulled her to sit next to her. Tang Xiu, who was sitting on the sofa not far from them, could clearly hear their conversation. The content of their conversation made Tan Xiu stare blankly. Zhang Xinya wants to see me. Can't she just call me directly if she wants to see me? Why does she want to go to the magnificent Tang Corporation's exclusive store for health products? How could Tan Xiu know the reserved thoughts of women? After hesitating for a while, he felt that he should greet Zhang Xinya. After all, she also seemed to be going to Shanghai, and it was very likely that she would take the same flight as him. Hey, beauty, would you like to have a cup of coffee? Tan Xiu walked toward Zhang Xinya. Zhang Xinya, who was talking to her agent with her head lowered, suddenly heard a man's invitation. She raised her head and directly refused, I'm sorry, I don't. However, she couldn't continue speaking because the man standing in front of her was the man she wished to drink coffee with every day. How come it's you, Tan Xiu? Zhang Xinya abruptly stood up and called out with an excited face. I'm going back to Shanghai, so I came here, said Tan Xiu with a smile. How about you? How come you're in the imperial capital? The excitement on Zhang Xinya's face didn't diminish as she said, I came to the imperial capital to participate in a talk show that just ended today. I'm also going to Shanghai. That's right, your flight is at 4 p.m., right? That's right. Tan Xiu said with a smile. Then we're on the same flight, said Zhang Xinya with a pleasantly surprised expression. Tan Xiu smiled and pulled her. After the two of them sat down, he said, Xinya, I didn't expect that we're so fated to meet each other twice at the airport. That's right, your new song seems to be very popular recently. Whether it's in Shanghai, the imperial capital, or even Jingmen Island, you can see advertisements with your picture everywhere. Even if it's very popular, it can't be compared with you, said Zhang Xinya with a laugh. You're now a superstar. Tan Xiu waved his hand and said, don't joke with me. My fame is declining day by day. I'm very satisfied with this result. Zhang Xinya was perfectly aware of Tan Xiu's low-key character, so she said with a smile, how about we go out for a walk? I guarantee that your popularity will rise again tomorrow. Forget it. Tan Xiu quickly waved his hand and said. Don't drag me into this. I'll just stay quiet and be a handsome man. Ha ha ha. After the accidental encounter, Tan Xiu and Zhang Xinya took a plane to Shanghai. Tang Xiu hitched a ride and only separated from Zhang Xinya when he arrived at the downtown area. Originally, Zhang Xinya wanted to invite Tan Xiu to dinner, but he refused since Kang Xia was still waiting for him in Blue Star Villa complex. However, he promised to have dinner with her tomorrow night. After returning to Blue Star Villa complex, Tan Xiu saw Kang Xia, who had obviously put on some light makeup. She was still so beautiful and looked more mature than before. Her whole body exuded a flirtatious charm. Despite being accustomed to seeing beauties, Tan Xiu's appetite was still somewhat aroused. Chapter 562. Tan Xiu was not the kind of young man who would jump into battle the moment he saw a beautiful woman. Even though Kang Xia's body and heart had been conquered by him, his willpower was still very strong. After suppressing the heat in his heart, Tan Xiu gently hugged her and said, You've worked hard, but it made Kang Xia's heart feel warm. Long Zhenglin also came, but he didn't come with me. After leaving Tan Xiu's embrace, Kang Xia said with a satisfied smile on her beautiful face. Tan Xiu thought for a moment and then said with a smile, he has shares in the sales of health products, so he's naturally very concerned about it. That fella has always wanted to prove himself to his father with his own ability. If our health products sell well, he can hold his head up high at home. How can he hold his head up high? Kang Xia said with a smile. He just hugged your thigh, otherwise, how could he have achieved such results? Tan Xiu pulled her to the sofa and sat down. He then shook his head and said, You can't say that. Long Zhenglin may not have become a great person all these years, but his brain is still very useful. If it wasn't for him coming up with the idea of using the prescription to make the products, I'm afraid I wouldn't have realized the wealth contained in the health products. Sometimes, even an idea can bring huge wealth. Kang Xia nodded with a smile and said, What you said makes sense. However, the variety of products our magnificent Tang Corporation has is still too few. How about you use your brain to develop more products for our company? Tan Xiu hesitated for a moment and slowly said, I do have a chance to make money now, and it's definitely a huge profit. However, this product cannot be used on ordinary people. The target group must be the top tycoons in the country or abroad. However, this product cannot be used on ordinary people. It must be targeted at the top tycoons in the country or abroad. Kang Xia's complexion slightly changed as she hurriedly asked, What product? I'm going to refine a batch of medicinal pills that can increase the lifespan of ordinary people. However, the number of such pills is bound to be limited, and the time it can increase the lifespan of the elderly won't be too long. Kang Xia suddenly jumped up from the sofa and asked with a horrified expression, Boss, can you really refine medicinal pills that can increase the lifespan of the elderly? How long is not too long? Tan Xiu said, Yes, about 2 years. Kang Xia took a deep breath and said with a serious expression, How should we look at the timing? Should we give it to them directly? Or when he was dying? Tan Xiu smiled faintly and said, I'm on my deathbed. In addition, there is another benefit. If they have a few more years to live, we can take care of their corpses. At the very least, we can make them feel the state they were in 10 years ago, and after taking the pill, they will be in that state again. A look of ecstasy appeared on Kang Xia's face as she excitedly asked, "What about the quantity? How many of these pills can you get?" Tan Xiu pondered for a moment before he slowly stretched out his hand and said, 100 pills a year. No problem. Kang Xia asked again, "What about the price? How much do you plan to sell one for?" Tan Xiu said, "I've thought about this problem. No matter how much money we have, we'll lose everything. Therefore, it should not be a problem to set the price at 100 million each." Kang Xia clapped her hands and said, 200 million. That's the lowest price. I dare say that if the effect of the pill is really as good as you said, let alone 200 million, I'm afraid there will be people willing to buy it for 1 billion. Moreover, they will take the banknotes and desperately run to snatch it. Tan Xiu thought about it for a moment before he nodded and smilingly said, 200 million it is. This kind of thing is a limited product. If it really sells well, we can directly put it in a large auction. At this moment, Kang Xia looked at Tan Xiu with eyes as if they could drip water. Not only did she fall deeply in love with Tan Xiu, but she also worshipped him to the point that it was difficult to increase. If it was before, she would think that no young man was better than Tan Xiu. But now, she felt that no one in the world was as good as Tan Xiu. I'm not hungry now. Kang Xia suddenly sat on Tan Xiu's lap and hugged Tan Xiu's neck. Her sensual red lips moved close to his ear and whispered. Tan Xiu stared blankly for a moment before he immediately understood Kang Xia's meaning. The impulse that he had just suppressed rose again, and it was even stronger than before. Then, let's go and relax first. Tan Xiu picked up Kang Xia and rushed toward the stairs. In just a few breaths, he appeared in the bedroom with Kang Xia and fell on the big bed. On the first floor. The housekeeper, Zhang Xinlan, came out of the kitchen wearing an apron. She was about to call Tan Xiu and Kang Xia to eat when she suddenly found that there was no one in the living room. She immediately asked with a confused expression, "Where are they? I just heard them talking in the living room. How come they're gone in the blink of an eye?" Zhang Xinlan wandered around the living room. After confirming that Tan Xiu and Kang Xia were gone, she shook her head with a distressed expression and secretly sighed, "I'm only in my 40s, could it be that I'm already senile? It's obvious that they were in the living room not long ago. How come there's no one here?" She hesitated for a moment before she tiptoed toward the second floor. When she came to the door of Tan Xiu's bedroom, she heard the bone-chilling moaning coming from inside. A bit of embarrassment immediately appeared on her face as she quietly retreated to the back. 2 hours later. After Tan Xiu took a bath and changed into clean clothes, he appeared on the first floor. Zhang Xinlan looked at Tan Xiu with a strange expression and said with a smile, "Mr. Tang, the food is already cold. I didn't heat it up since I didn't know when you would eat. How about I help you heat it up now?" "Then I'll have to trouble you," said Tan Xiu with a smile. "It's all right. It's what I should do." Zhang Xinlan quickly waved her hand and said with a smile. Quickly. Tan Xiu came to the bedroom on the second floor with the food. He looked at Kang Xia, who was lazily leaning on the bed like a kitten with a smile on the corner of her mouth. He walked over with a smile and said, "Are you going to eat on the bed? Or do you want to come down and eat?" "You feed me," said Kang Xia with a charming smile. Cough, cough, Tan Xiu had never fed a woman before. But looking at Kang Xia in her pajamas, with her exposed chest and incomparably attractive and charming appearance, he finally complied. The next morning, Tan Xiu woke up from his sleep and found that Kang Xia's figure was no longer at the bedside. Such a situation made him a bit vigilant. After all, Kang Xia would make a sound when she got out of bed, yet he couldn't detect it with his current strength. This showed that his vigilance was getting worse. After washing up, Tan Xiu then knew that Kang Xia was cooking breakfast on the first floor. Although the breakfast was very simple, the two of them still had a good time eating it. After eating, they handed over the task of cleaning up the dishes to the housekeeper and then rushed to the health products store together. YDL country. Somewhere on the outskirts of Rome was a majestic manor. It was the headquarters of the Tsubwa clan. At present, the entire Tsubwa clan was immersed in grief, and the armed guards of the clan had become extremely strict. In the deepest part of the manor, inside the tens of meters high castle, Druffet was wearing pajamas and comfortably sitting on a chair in the living room. Beside the tea table in front of him, two fair-skinned and beautiful girls wearing white gauze were kneeling there, making tea and cutting cigars. Now, Druffet could be said to be riding on the crest of success. After a crazy bloodbath in just 3 days, he finally took full control of the clan. All the high-level members of the Tsubwa clan and all the armed leaders had surrendered to him. In other words, he was now a billionaire who could shake the YDL country with just a stomp of his foot. Patriarch, the National Parliament Spender has come to visit. A stalwart man came in from outside the door and whispered in Druffet's ear. Druffet's expression moved. Spender, as a powerful figure in the national parliament, had a very high right to speak in the country. He also had a huge force behind him to support him. Even if he was compared to the Tsubwa clan, he would not be inferior. I'll personally greet him. A few minutes later, Druffet saw Spender. He was tall and thin, looking slightly old. However, his eyes that were full of wisdom were particularly bright. Mr. Spender, it's an honor to have you as a guest in our Tsubwa clan. Originally, I should have visited you personally. Spender was very satisfied with Druffet's attitude. In fact, the two had a very secret cooperation a long time ago and had earned a lot of money together. Now that Druffet had become the patriarch of the Tsubwa clan and had control of the entire Tsubwa clan, Spender was very happy to have a closer relationship with Druffet and get along more harmoniously. Faintly smiling, Spender said, Patriarch Druffet is too polite. The purpose of my visit this time is to celebrate you becoming the patriarch of the Tsubwa clan, and also to give you a big gift. Druffet stared blankly and quickly asked, Mr. Spender, how about we talk in my study room? All right. After the two men came to the more than 200 square meters study room, Druffet personally poured 2 glasses of red wine and handed one to Spender. After that, he smilingly said, May I know what kind of big gift you're talking about? Gently sipping the red wine, Spender put down the glass in his hand and said, I'll be your guide. You pay me $100 million to let you join the Stygian Club smoothly. The Stygian Club? Druffet's brows furrowed and his face turned unsightly. Spender said that he would give him a big gift, but it turned out that he came to ask for money. What Stygian Club? With his current status, why would he need someone to guide him? As though seeing through Druffet's mind, Spender lightly smiled and said, You're now the patriarch of the Tsubwa clan, so you must have a more long-term vision. Can you tell me who are the 10 most powerful forces in the world right now? Druffet stared blankly and frowned. The world? I can't tell you. Spender lightly smiled and said, Since you can't tell me, I can tell you that the top 3 among the 10 largest forces in the world are the most terrifying. The last 7 are much lower in grade compared to the first 3. I'll tell you about the first 3 first. Chapter 563. Spender knew Druffet very well. He needed to pull this kind of person into his camp, so that he could have more say in the organization. The first organization, Pyramid. The second organization, Crusader Consortium. The third organization, Stygian Club. Spender's eyes were full of ambition when he mentioned the names of these 3 forces. He tapped the ground heavily with his walking stick and said, The Pyramid and the Alliance of the Conglomerates of the Crusaders. You don't need to know about these 2 organizations for now. Even my understanding of them is very limited. The Stygian Club I belong to is composed of secret forces from 39 countries around the world. Our YDL has 2 forces that are qualified to join. The first is my family, and the second is the Merston family. Druffet frowned and asked in a deep voice, What are the benefits of joining the Stygian Club? You can control small forces or families affiliated to a country through business, said Spender. I understand about business, but I don't quite understand about controlling small forces and families affiliated to a country, said Druffet. Spender said meaningfully, let's make an example. If you have your eyes on a small force or family and want them to work for your Tsubwa clan, you can secretly attack them. If you're afraid that you won't be able to make them bow down easily, you can apply to the Stygian Club for financial or armed forces to help. According to the rules, you need to take out 1/10 of the family's wealth and hand it over to the force that helps you. Druffet's pupils shrunk and a horrified feeling rose inside his heart. Never did he expect that there was such a terrifying organization in the world. With such a complicated entanglement of power and such a terrifying force, wouldn't it be very difficult for any force or family to resist if they were to be targeted? Give me some time. I need to think about it. Druffet was silent for a long time before he slowly said. Spender nodded with a smile and said, it's such an important matter. Even if you want to make a decision, I'm afraid you'll have to talk to the rest of your Tsubwa clan first. You have plenty of time, so you can find me at any time after you've made your decision. I look forward to having more cooperation with you in the future. No problem. Druffet nodded without a word. After seeing Spender off, Druffet pondered for a long time as a handsome young man from the east gradually appeared in his mind. After smoking a few cigarettes, he decided to build a good relationship with the everlasting feast hall in the east. After all, he needed to have a deeper relationship with such a terrifying hidden force. That would be the best. They could cooperate in some aspects. Shanghai. Tan Xiao and Kang Xia stood quietly at the corner of the bustling street, looking at the long queue tens of meters away with a smile on their faces. The magnificent Tang Corporation's products were now recognized by the people all over the country. Whether it was cosmetics or God's nectar, all of them were very popular. The promotion of the health products had begun as early as 2 months ago. Now, the people of the country knew the effect of the magnificent Tang Corp's health products. There were too many rich people these days, but there were even more people who were almost emptied. Therefore, just the effect of nourishing yin and kidney to treat impotence was enough to make everyone go crazy. Tang. Tang Xiu glanced at Kang Xia and asked with a smile. Kang, Tang, Tang, Tang said. Tang, Kang, Tang. Unexpectedly, Druffet, star, I never thought that many customers would and drew red by. I didn't. I don't think I need to stay here anymore. You're right. It's the same whether you come or not. Tan Xiu said, if the sales are good, the sales will be good even if you're not here. If not, the sales will still be a problem even if you stay here every day. Tell those people you brought to stay and help. Let's go back and wait for the news. Kang Xia complied and made a call for a while. Then, she followed Tan Xiu back to Blue Star Villa Complex. Kang Xia, however, was still not completely relieved despite the fact that one of the specialty stores in Shanghai was bustling with customers, even though she was very satisfied with it. She stayed in Tang Xiu's study room and paid attention to the sales feedback with the magnificent Tang Corporation's top executives through an online video call. Tan Xiu didn't stay at home to accompany her, but was called out by a phone call. Downstairs of Shanghai University, Han Qingwu was sitting in the front passenger seat of a red car, her eyes a bit blurred. It was obvious that she was not in a good mood. Only when she came back to her senses and glanced in the direction of the university's gate did she reveal a touch of expectation. Knock, knock. The front passenger seat's door was knocked. After Tan Xiu opened the door and took a seat, he looked at Han Qingwu's face and smilingly asked, when did you come back? I just came back yesterday, said Han Qingwu softly. Seeing that she was not in a good mood, Tan Xiu curiously asked, what's wrong? Are you blaming me for not calling you back with me? No. Han Qingwu shook her head and said, Xiao Xue said that you had an urgent matter and went to the imperial capital. I don't know when you can return to Shanghai. Then, why are you in a bad mood? Asked Tan Xiu. Han Qingwu was silent for a moment and then said, my parents forced me to go on a blind date last night. He's the son of an old comrade in arms. He's very handsome and has a good temperament. He's a senior official of a large foreign company with a 7-digit annual salary, a car, and a house. But I don't know why I don't have any feelings for him. I even found that I don't have any feelings for any man except for you. This situation started after this year's freshman welcoming party of Shanghai University. Tan Xiu frowned and pointed to his head and asked, "Is it because of those images?" "It should be." Han Qinggu nodded and said, But, Tan Xiu said, "Just tell me what's on your mind." "Actually, there's something I didn't tell you," said Han Qinggu bitterly. "It's not only those images that appeared in my head. The song you played and sang at the freshman welcoming party that night also pulled me into a new world. I saw some unimaginable scenes. I saw a man whose face I couldn't see, only his back." Tan Xiu's expression changed and he asked in a deep voice, "What scenes?" Han Qinggu covered her face and chest. Her complexion was a bit pale as she said, "I saw a woman who looks very much like me do something that made her regret it. I saw a man whose face I couldn't see being besieged and killed by others in a doomsday world. It was like a scene from a fantasy movie. The woman who looked very much like me killed the man she regretted and felt sorry for, and then committed suicide next to that man." Suicide? Tan Xiu's heart trembled and disbelief filled his eyes. He was perfectly aware of what Han Qinggu meant. That doomsday scene should be the scene when he crossed his tribulation. He was besieged by his best friends and Xue Qingcheng. But how could Xue Qingcheng commit suicide? Shouldn't she feel happy because of her greed and selfishness to obtain the heavenly art of cosmic genesis? "I still have something to do, so I'll take my leave first." Tan Xiu's complexion was faintly pale. He looked as though he had lost his soul as he pushed the door open and staggered toward the campus gate. He didn't even look back even though Han Qinggu hurriedly chased after him and called him. Suicide. This word filled his heart like a curse, making him unable to understand the reason. They obviously loved each other, but she attacked him. Her goal was achieved, but she committed suicide. Tan Xiu returned to the Blue Star Villa complex in a daze. He didn't even go to the study to see Kang Xia. He went straight back to the bedroom and sat on the bedside, smoking one cigarette after another. When he was about to finish a pack of cigarettes, the bedroom door was pushed open, and Kang Xia's exclamation came. "Boss, why do you smoke so much?" Tang Xiu woke up from his daze. He looked at Kang Xia and then lowered his head to look at the cigarette, but that was about to burn out between his fingers. A bitter and astringent taste swayed inside his heart as he extinguished the cigarette but in the ashtray and walked towards Kang Xia with the smell of smoke all over his body. He reached out and hugged her. He didn't use much strength, but it was as if he wanted to integrate Kang Xia into his body. The shallow warmth of Kang Xia's body seemed to illuminate his confused heart. After a long time, Kang Xia gently raised her head and looked at Tan Xiu. Her eyes were closed, and a light snore could be heard. A strange expression appeared on her beautiful face. She fell asleep. How could she fall asleep standing up? Kang Xia wanted to move, but she was held by Tan Xiu. Although his strength was much smaller than before, she was still afraid of waking up Tan Xiu. After hesitating for a moment, she could only stand like this and let Tan Xiu hold her. At the same time, she silently controlled the warm current in her body and began to circulate it according to the cultivation method route taught to her by Tan Xiu. Huh. A few minutes later, Kang Xia was surprised to find that she could feel a trace of cool air drilling into her body while being held by Tan Xiu. Eventually, it poured into her dantian. After the warm current in her meridians returned to her dantian, it finally merged into one. Time flew by. 2 hours quickly passed by. Kang Xia, who was held by Tan Xiu, maintained a standing posture, but the surprise in her heart was getting stronger and stronger. Because she was shocked to find that this cultivation speed was many times faster than her own cultivation speed. In just 2 hours, the flow of qi in her body had nearly doubled. What made her feel the most inconceivable was that before, she needed to concentrate and put all of her energy into mobilizing that warm current. But now, she felt that her control over that warm current had increased by many times. What's going on? Is it because of Tanxiu? Kang Xia thought for a moment and finally suppressed this thought at the bottom of her heart. She didn't want to waste time. Since the current cultivation effect was so good, she must seize every minute and second to cultivate. After all, Andy's strength was already very strong, at least 10 times stronger than her. If she didn't catch up with Andy soon, it would be difficult for her to raise her head in front of Tanxiu. Chapter 564. He slept in a standing position with Kang Xia's body almost as the center. This lasted for a long time. After 3 or 4 hours, Tanxiu woke up from his deep sleep. Feeling a cool aura surging around him, he opened his eyes and saw Kang Xia's beautiful face at first glance. I fell asleep. Tanxiu found it a bit inconceivable. Kang Xia's cultivation was interrupted. She opened her starry eyes and smilingly said, "Yeah. You really fell asleep. You slept standing up like that." Tanxiu forced an awkward smile and said, "I encountered something confusing, so I'm not in a good mood." "I didn't expect that." "That's right, the fluctuation of the heaven and earth spiritual energy in the surroundings is because you're cultivating, right?" Kang Xia blinked and then separated herself from Tanxiu's embrace. She ran 5 or 6 meters away and directly sat on the ground, regardless of whether the ground was dirty or not. 2 minutes later, she stood up in a daze and looked at the puzzled Tanxiu and said, "It's really strange. My cultivation speed is so fast when I'm hugging you. I don't know how much faster it is compared to my own cultivation. But after I let go of you, my cultivation has returned to its original state." "What did you say?" Tanxiu stared blankly and immediately asked in surprise. "My cultivation speed is fast when I'm hugging you, but it's very slow when I'm not hugging you. It's only been a few hours, but the warm current in my body has doubled. The most important thing is that it has become easier for me to control it." Tanxiu looked down at himself and pondered for a moment before he understood the reason. His current cultivation was already very high, and he was constantly absorbing the power of the stars and the power of the sun. Because the heaven and earth spiritual energy was the medium, the heaven and earth spiritual energy around him was much richer than other places. Kang Xia cultivating beside him was equivalent to suddenly going to a place where the concentration of the heaven and earth spiritual energy had skyrocketed several times, so her cultivation speed was naturally a lot faster. Immediately after Tanxiu told her the reason, Kang Xia was not startled but happy instead. She very rarely pestered Tanxiu and made Tanxiu promise to let her stay by his side more in the future. "That's right, how's the sales of our new product?" Tanxiu recalled this matter and quickly asked. Upon hearing this question, a smile bloomed on Kang Xia's beautiful face and she exclaimed in admiration, "The feedback from the exclusive stores all over the country is that the slowest one only took 2.5 hours to sell out all the health products." Tanxiu was stunned and sighed, "It seems that Long Zhenglin really gave me a good idea." Then, he sighed and said, "Long Zhenglin has given me a good idea. After you return to Star City, give him his dividends according to the proportion of his shares. The next dividend will be at the end." Kang Xia said with a smile, "No problem. Our company doesn't lack money for the time being." Our company, Tang. As, I said. "I have." Xia Xiu Tanxiu said, "I will." "I'll leave the business to you," said Tanxiu. Tang as. "Promised, Tang." "Tang," he said. "Tang." "Xiu," Tang Xia agreed. "Xiu." Kang Xia's eyes lit up as she agreed. For the next 2 days, Kang Xia took a break from her busy schedule. Every night, she would return to Blue Star Villa Complex to deal with work issues and hold video conferences with the company's top executives. During the day, she would follow Tanxiu to search for good land. In the end, the two of them chose a piece of land that had not yet been developed at the junction of Shanghai and Desu. Afterward, Tan Xiu contacted many people in the real estate industry in Shanghai and learned from them the approximate price needed to buy the land, as well as the various procedures that needed to be done. After that, Kang Xia directly transferred a group of people from Star City and temporarily recruited some people who were proficient in real estate in Shanghai to form a temporary team to be fully responsible for the purchase of the land. What made Tan Xiu and Kang Xia most satisfied was that they found a headhunting company to help them poach a very famous real estate broker at a high price, Tang Chenghe. In addition, the boss of Jinda Real Estate, Jin Xinkue, used many of his connections and finally bought the large piece of land for 1.98 billion. Afterward, Tan Xiu then left this matter to Kang Xia and Tang Chenghe while he returned to Shanghai University. He began to attend classes every day, went to the library, and lived a very relaxed life. Imperial capital, Tang family's ancestral residence. More than a dozen core members of the Tang family were all gathered here. Everyone had a mobile phone in front of them, and the volume was set to the maximum. "Dad, the news spread very fast. All the major families and forces that have been oppressed by the Yao family or suffered a lot of losses because of the Yao family are all secretly contacting each other. Now, the whole imperial capital is calm on the surface, but there are undercurrents surging in the dark. I think it won't take a few days for the Yao family to be attacked by all forces because of the death of Yao Qingzuan and the loss of their family's strength," Tang Yunpeng said as he held a lit cigarette between his fingers. In his mind, he admired his nephew from the bottom of his heart. He never thought that the Tang family could have a relationship with cultivators. But now, not only did the Tang family have a relationship with cultivators, but his nephew was also a cultivator, and he even cultivated hundreds of cultivators. Such a huge force was enough to sweep away all the forces in China. The smile on Tang Guisheng's face was very thick. The Yao family and the Tang family were sworn enemies, and all the families with a bit of power in the country knew about this situation. The news that the Tang family had forced Yao Qingzuan to his death and destroyed the Yao family's force was naturally spread like wildfire. However, the Tang family didn't announce anything to the public. The information recorded in the Yao family's file was also secretly released by Tang Yunqing's people. It was even guaranteed that no force or family would be able to investigate the Tang family. "Those people don't want us to exterminate the Yao family, so we'll just sit on the fishing platform and watch the changes in the imperial capital." The Yao family. If we don't pull out the roots, they'll grow again when the spring breeze blows. Who knows what kind of talent the Yao family will have in the future? To what extent will they slowly recover? Leaving this family alive will always be a scourge. Tang Guishou heavily nodded and said, "Big brother is right. The Yao family's heritage is too deep. We must cut off their path of retreat as much as possible and make them unable to recover from this setback." Tang Guisheng also sighed, "If it weren't for the Yao family being too powerful all these years and offending too many people, I'm afraid no one would take the initiative to stand up against them even if we used that file. The sins of the heavens can be forgiven, but the sins brought upon oneself are the hardest to bear." While the three elders of the Tang family were talking, the mobile phone placed in front of Tang Guisheng suddenly rang. "Speak." Tang Guisheng looked at the caller ID and immediately spoke in a deep voice. Elder Tang, a junior of the Yao family, Yao Xindi, was seriously injured by a junior of the Wang family and has been sent to the hospital for treatment. At the same time, Yao Xindi's father, Yao Qingheng, was hit by a car that rushed into a roadside specialty store. He can't be saved. A deep and low voice came from the phone. Tang Guisheng's pupils shrunk. He was silent for 2 minutes before he slowly said, "Continue to track the information. I need to know everything about the Yao family as soon as possible." "Understood." After hanging up the phone, Tang Guisheng looked at the others and said, "The first family jumped out and moved against the Yao family. Yao Qingheng was hit and his son, Yao Xindi, was seriously injured by a junior of the Wang family. It seems that aside from our Tang family, the one who hates the Yao family the most is the Wang family." "Interesting. It's really interesting." Tang Guishou let out a strange smile. I once heard that Yao Qingheng had a grudge with a young man of the Wang family during the construction of Jinhua Mall. They fought several times and the one who finally suffered a loss was that young man of the Wang family. I have a feeling that the Wang family doesn't have the guts to deal with the Yao family alone. I'm afraid that the Wang family has a cooperation agreement with one or more families. Just wait and see. I'm sure someone will jump out and move against the Yao family soon. Sure enough. Less than an hour after Yao Qingheng was hit and Yao Xindi was beaten, a high-class clubhouse in the eastern fourth ring suddenly caught fire. An important member of the Yao family who was in charge of the clubhouse died in the fire. At the same time, 7 or 8 experts of the Yao family and 2 accountants were also burned to death. Shortly after, a certain group company controlled by the Yao family was investigated by the inspection agency for tax evasion and fire safety problems. Eventually, it was forced to close down for rectification. A construction site controlled by the Yao family was raided and found to have serious quality problems. The workers were driven away and the site was sealed. A series of measures were taken against the project, giving the Yao family a heavy blow. The bad news about the Yao family fluttered to the Tang family like snowflakes. In just 2 days, the Yao family suffered huge losses. It was said that the new head of the Yao family, Yao Qingdong, was so worried that his hair turned white overnight. Tan Xiu, who was in Shanghai, had been paying attention to the situation in the imperial capital. He had already guessed that the Yao family wouldn't be able to survive this when the Wang family was the first to move against them. As for the enemy, Tang Xiu never had any compassion. If it weren't for the suppression from the old patriarch's superiors, he would have already eliminated the Yao family without needing to borrow a knife to do his dirty work. Now, without wasting any of his strength, the Yao family was already on the verge of collapse. Tan Xiu was happy to see this. In the male dormitory of Shanghai University. As Tan Xiu hung up the phone and was in a good mood, Hu Qingsong ran in from the outside and saw Tan Xiu sitting in front of the bookshelf. He immediately asked, "Big bro Tang, I'm going out to buy something. Are you going with me?" "What are you going to buy?" asked Tan Xiu. "Don't worry about what I'm going to buy. Just give me a straightforward answer. Do you want to go with me? I guarantee you'll be satisfied with the place we're going." Tan Xiu put away his mobile, got up and smilingly said, "Since you said so, then I'll go with you. If I'm not satisfied with the place we're going, you'll have to treat me to dinner." "No problem." Hu Qingsong puffed out his chest and guaranteed. Today's 3rd chapter is presented to you. Seeking recommendation votes and monthly votes. Chapter 565. Shanghai's Wanmao Shopping Center was located in the most prosperous commercial street in Hongkou District, also known as the Fortune Plaza. Each of the stores inside took the international high-end route. Apart from a large number of luxury goods, there were also many famous brands from all over the world. Hu Qingsong drove Tan Xiu here and went straight to the clothing area on the 4th floor. Hu Qingsong didn't stop even for a moment as he passed by the world-famous clothing stores. He went all the way to the innermost side of the women's underwear store, only then did he stop with some hesitation. "Old Hu, is this the place you said that I'm satisfied with?" Tan Xiu was dumbfounded as he looked at the dazzling lineup of underwear inside. He was simply dazzled to the point of being dazzled. Especially those sexy lingerie with all kinds of colors and styles, it made Tang Xiu secretly blush when he saw them. He had never been to such a place in his life, or even his previous life. Hu Qingsong awkwardly said, "I recently got a girlfriend, and I just took her first blood yesterday. It just so happens that tomorrow is her birthday, so I wanted to give her a unique gift." Yu Kai was the one who came up with the idea to give her a set of sexy underwear. Cough, cough, Tan Xiu really felt defeated by Hu Qingsong. Yu Kai's rotten idea actually made him think that it was something else. Had he known earlier that Hu Qingsong would come to such a place, he wouldn't have come even if he was invited to 100 meals. At this time, this brand of underwear was called Karine Gilson. It was a luxury underwear brand from Europe. The founder was a high-end custom-made underwear designer from Belgium, who founded the underwear brand with the same name in 1994. She was very particular about the choice of materials, and was famous for only using the best quality silk from Lyon and lace from Calais as the fabric. Most of the classic pieces of Corinne Gilson were drawn from feminine soft colors, such as rust, crimson, orange, cappuccino white, and old rose. In addition, its price was also very expensive. Even a pair of underwear started from $240, and a set of pajamas cost more than $1,360. Hu Qingsong paced outside the shop with a hesitant expression. Tan Xiu really wanted to turn around and leave, but after seeing Hu Qingsong's appearance, he endured the strange gazes of many women passing by and braced himself to say, "Old Hu, if you really want to buy a set of underwear for your girlfriend, then go buy it." As a man, he might not have other things, but he had to be thick-skinned. "I'll support you in spirit, but I won't go in with you. I'm addicted to smoking. I'll find a place to smoke and wait for you." Hu Qingsong was dumbfounded. How could he not hear that Tan Xiu was running away at the last minute? Steeling his heart, he strode forward to block Tang Xiu's path and forcefully pulled him into the store. "Welcome." A beautiful female shop assistant with a graceful figure greeted him with a professional smile. She seemed to be accustomed to men visiting the underwear store. She smiled warmly and said, "Gentlemen, I'm a shop assistant. What kind of underwear do you want to buy? Also, may I ask if you want to give it to? It's my girlfriend's birthday tomorrow. I think. I don't know what kind of underwear girls like," said Hu Qingsong awkwardly. "How about you recommend it to me?" The shop assistant led the two men inside and asked with a smile, "May I ask how old your girlfriend is? What's her 3 measurements?" Hu Qingsong answered the shop assistant's question with only half of his knowledge. Tan Xiu took advantage of this time to hide at the side. He wanted to take out a cigarette and smoke a few times to dispel the embarrassment in his heart. But after seeing the "no smoking" sign in this shop, he had no choice but to bitterly find a sofa and sit down. "Big sis, did you see that? That boy over there, and the one sitting in front of us, both of them went to this women's lingerie store to buy lingerie. Do you think they're gay?" 2 young and beautiful girls, who were dressed fashionably, stood not far from Tang Xiu and whispered, "I don't think so. It should be a boy accompanying another boy to buy underwear for a girl, right? But the boy sitting there is quite handsome, and I think he's a bit familiar." "It's true. I also think he's a bit familiar. I think I've seen him somewhere. He's so handsome. Do you think we should look for him and take a photo with him? Maybe he'll be discovered by an entertainment company's talent scout in the future. He'll be excavated and trained to become a big star." "A big star? Oh my God. I remember now. He's Tan Xiu, a freshman at Shanghai University. He's the one who played the zither and sang at this year's freshman welcoming party." "That's right, I remember he's a doctor, the young divine doctor of Star City Chinese Medical Hospital. I also remember now. How come he..." The 2 girls' conversation was getting louder and louder, and many women in the store heard it. In just a few minutes, everyone, including the 7 or 8 shop assistants, surrounded Tan Xiu and pointed at him while whispering. Some of the bolder women even showed an eager expression, hoping to get acquainted with Tan Xiu. Chen Xiaowan had been in a bad mood recently. She was from the Human Resources Department of a dignified multinational corporation. Not only was she a Ms. Perfect, but she also had strong means and connections. In the eyes of countless women, she was a successful woman with a high profile. However, when she thought so, she bumped into the scene of her boyfriend and her good sister having an illicit affair. She was incomparably proud, and it was very difficult for her to bear the result of being cuckolded. However, she didn't cry, nor did she throw a tantrum, nor did she have the thread to hang herself. Instead, she endured the pain in her heart, said a few words of blessing and then left. If this matter had ended here, she wouldn't have been in such a bad mood for such a long time. What shocked her the most was that her boyfriend, who had cuckolded her, humbly apologized to her and begged for her forgiveness. In the end, when he didn't get what he wanted, his attitude took a 180-degree turn. Not only did he insult her, but he also wanted her to pay for it. The reason was mental damage compensation, loss of youth compensation. After Chen Xiaowan sternly refused, she also threatened to call the police and finally got rid of her ex-boyfriend. However, she was still holding back the grievances and pain in her heart. After staying at home for 10 days and half a month, the holiday was finally coming to an end, and she was ready to go shopping. However, when she stepped into the Karim Gilson exclusive store and saw the scene inside, she immediately frowned. She was about to turn around and leave, but the moment she stepped out of the store, she coincidentally saw her ex-scumbag boyfriend. What made her angrier was that her ex-scumbag boyfriend's arm was actually being held by an obese woman in her 40s. She nearly vomited when she saw the lovey-dovey appearance of the two of them. Hide! This was the truest portrayal of Chen Xiaowan's heart. Therefore, she retreated back and moved closer to the crowd inside. Hey, handsome, shall we take a picture together? A bold woman finally plucked up the courage to come before Tan Xiao and spoke with a face full of expectation. Tan Xiao had just heard the discussion of this group of women, but he didn't expect that someone would actually come to take a picture with him. Looking at the sexy lingerie on both sides, Tan Xiao didn't even lift his buttocks as he said with a wry smile, "Big sis, isn't it inappropriate to take a picture here?" The woman stared blankly and suddenly realized that they were in a store that sold women's lingerie. She immediately blushed and said, "I'm really sorry. How about we go out and take a picture? I know you're the young divine doctor, Tan Xiao, and also a star student of Shanghai University. Being able to take a picture with such a capable and handsome man like you will definitely make me very happy." Cough, cough. Tan Xiao really didn't want to take a picture with the woman in front of him, despite the fact that she was quite beautiful. With his IQ, he could naturally guess that if he took a picture with her, other women would flock to him and attract more people's attention. It was very likely that the news of him accompanying his classmate to buy lingerie would be exposed on the internet. Fate might be destined by the heavens. Just as Tan Xiao was somewhat at a loss, a coarse and coquettish voice of a woman came from outside the store. "Darling, this Karim Gilson's lingerie is very good. Some of the sexy lingerie is very beautiful. Do you think I should buy a few sets and wear them for you when I go back?" "Okay. You'll definitely look very beautiful in them," said Yu Zigang with a fake smile while being held by the obese middle-aged woman. He even imagined the fat woman wearing the sexy lingerie and had goosebumps all over his body. If it weren't for this woman being very rich and extremely generous, he would have kicked her away and found another woman. "Honey, you're such a sweet talker." The obese woman was overjoyed and wanted to kiss Yu Zigang. But since she was less than 1.6 meters tall, she couldn't even reach Yu Zigang's face, who was more than 1.8 meters tall. Thus, she hurriedly pulled his arm and made him squat down a bit. Yu Zigang glanced at the store and found that many women didn't look back. He quickly squatted down with a flattering smile and took the initiative to offer his lips. Kiss. After a loud kiss, the obese woman walked inside with a satisfied expression. Yu Zigang didn't notice it, and neither did the woman. Chen Xiaowan, who had been secretly observing the two of them in the crowd inside, almost vomited out of disgust. After a while, Yu Zigang followed the obese woman inside. Although Chen Xiaowan tried her best to avoid him, he still saw her. Yu Zigang, who wanted to show how outstanding he was in front of the obese woman, suddenly had a bright idea, and a brilliant idea emerged in his mind. He immediately grabbed the obese woman's arm and hugged her in his arms. Then, he deliberately shouted, "Hey, isn't this Chen Xiaowan I just got rid of? Why did you come to such a high-end lingerie store to buy things?" Chapter 566. The sudden voice broke the strange atmosphere and rescued Tan Xiao from the awkwardness. At this moment, all the women around Tan Xiao turned to look at Yu Zigang and the fat woman. Even Tan Xiao was no exception. However, a sentence involuntarily emerged in everyone's mind after seeing the pair in front of them: tender grass growing on cow dung. Indeed. Yu Zhigang was a good-looking man with a height of more than 1.8 meters and a well-proportioned figure, as though he was born to be a clothes rack. Coupled with his handsome appearance, he could win the favor of many women at first sight. However, all the women around Tan Xiu didn't like Yu Zhigang at all. On the contrary, a sense of disgust was birthed in their hearts. Chen Xiaowan was a bit driven crazy. The person she didn't want to see the most was Yu Zhigang. But the more she didn't want to see him, the more she could see him. The most unbearable thing for her was that this man who occupied her youth for several years turned out to be a complete bastard. She didn't speak because she felt that even talking to Yu Zhigang would be a waste of her time and saliva. Seeing that she couldn't avoid him, she directly chose to leave. Don't go. When will you pay me back the money you owe me? Yu Zhigang moved 2 steps to the side and blocked Chen Xiaowan's way. Chen Xiaowan furrowed her brows and said with disgust and helplessness, "Can you not be so shameless, Yu Zhigang? I've been buying things for you all these years. I even gave you the money to drink with your friends. Now that we've broken up, you still want me to compensate you for the mental damage and loss of youth? Are you still a human?" Yu Zhigang looked angry and released the fat woman in his arms. He pointed at Chen Xiaowan and cursed, "I've been serving you so well. Who's the one who's been waiting for you after work every day? Who's the one who's been waiting for you downstairs of your company? You spent money. How much money did you spend for me? You're such a stingy bastard. You're so stingy, yet you come here and don't buy other people's clothes. Are you pretending to be a wolf with a big tail?" Chen Xiaowan's heart seemed to be stabbed by a knife, and tears of grievance welled up in her eyes. She knew Yu Zhigang was shameless, but she didn't expect him to be shameless to this extent. With a curious look, the fat woman said, "Dear, is this the ex-girlfriend who cheated on you and made you a cuckold? Look at her, she really does look like a coquettish fox. You're already so good in bed, but you still can't satisfy her. You're really cheap." Yu Zhigang was stunned. He did not expect the fat woman to say such a thing. His handsome face instantly revealed an unnatural expression. However, he did not refute her, which meant that he agreed with her. Disbelief could be seen in Chen Xiaowan's tearful eyes. She was so angry that her lips trembled. She pointed at Yu Zhigang and cursed, "Are you still human, Yu Zhigang? How could you be so shameless? You and my best friend were clearly together. Not only did I catch you in bed, but you even slandered me for having an affair. You're shameless." An impatient look appeared on Yu Zhigang's face as he coldly snorted and said, "Cut the crap. In any case, since we've met today, hurry up and pay me back the money you owe me. I've already given you a discount of 100,000 yuan. Each and every one of the women in the surroundings looked angry. They were all discerning people, so how could they not figure out the whole story? It turned out that this man named Yu Zhigang cheated on his girlfriend. After breaking up, he shamelessly asked the girl to compensate him for the mental damage and loss of youth. Such a man, how shameless could he be? A woman looked at Chen Xiaowan's tearful appearance and angrily shouted, "Today is an eye-opener for me. A man cheated on his girlfriend, and after breaking up, he actually asked his girlfriend for mental damage and loss of youth. He's really shameless. That's right. The heavens are really blind. Otherwise, why didn't they strike him to death with a bolt of lightning? People usually break up on good terms, but he dragged another woman to slander his ex-girlfriend. It's too despicable and shameless." Another woman couldn't help but blurt out, "Yeah. I've seen a lot of despicable and shameless men, but I've never seen one as shameless to this extent. He's just a scumbag. Whoever likes him in the future is really blind. There's also that fat woman beside him. She's just as shameless. Is this the sign of birds of the same feather? What a shameless couple. The man is a thief and the woman is a whore." More than 20 women in the surroundings spoke one after another. Tan Xiu, who was sitting on the sofa, looked at Qin Shaowan with some sympathy. He didn't expect that such a beautiful woman would have such a shameless ex-boyfriend and had such an unbearable past. However, he didn't feel like saying anything more about her matter. Yu Zhigang never dreamed that he would be accused and cursed by so many people. The burning sensation on his face made him wish he could find a hole to burrow into. His original intention was to prove in front of his new rich woman that he was tired of playing with Miss Perfect and that he was very outstanding. Little did he expect that he would end up in such a situation. The fat woman was obviously not someone who was easy to deal with. Looking at the women pointing and cursing at her, she struggled free from Yu Zhigang's hand, put her hands on her hips and angrily cursed, "Shut the fuck up, you motherfuckers. This mother is following her boyfriend to deal with family affairs. What does it have to do with you? Get the hell out of here, else I'll make you pay for it." The women in the surroundings immediately turned unhappy. Those who could come here to shop were from relatively good families, and some of them even came from powerful families in Shanghai. Upon hearing the fat woman's insults and arrogance, they all opened their mouths to fight back. Seeing everyone's attitude, Qin Shaowan felt much better. She wiped the tears on her face and stopped everyone from pointing and cursing at her. Then, she looked at Yu Zhigang and said, "You want money, don't you? I'll give it to you. I'll transfer it to you now. Don't ever appear in front of me again after you get the money. Just pretend that we never met." "Sister, you can't give him money." A woman in her 30s hurriedly stopped Qin Shaowan. "Big sister, and all the other sisters, thank you for your kindness," said Qin Shaowan gratefully. "This man is too bad. He's always looking for trouble with me. He even ran to my house and smashed the door and cursed at me. I really can't stand it anymore. If money can solve this problem, I'm willing to give him money and send him away." The woman said, "Sister, don't even dream about it. This kind of mangy dog, even if you give him money now, he'll still look for trouble with you later when he has no money. I think we should call the police directly. I'm sure the police will teach him a lesson." "Who the hell are you, bitch?" Yu Zhigang angrily shouted. "Mind your own business again, believe it or not, I'll slap you." The woman stepped forward, raised her head and loudly said, "Come on, I'll give you a slap. I won't believe you're a man if you don't do it today." Yu Zhigang panicked. He was a smart man. How could he not know that the women who came here to shop were either from well-off families or rich and powerful people? He didn't want to complicate matters. If he provoked someone he couldn't afford to offend, he would be in big trouble. However, while he was hesitating, the fat woman next to him rushed in front of the woman and slapped her in the face. "What are you doing? You really hit me." The surrounding women were not happy, and they all surrounded the fat woman. Even Qin Shaowan didn't expect that she would implicate others and get beaten because of her. She forcefully squeezed to the front of the slapped woman and fiercely pushed the fat woman out while protecting her. Ouch! The fat woman was pushed and her fat buttocks fell on the ground, causing her to scream twice in pain. "Big bro Tang, what's going on?" Hu Qingsong had just been picking out underwear. At this moment, seeing the chaotic scene in front of him, he and the shop assistant ran over. "A scumbag and a bitch bullied the scumbag's ex-girlfriend," said Tan Xiu with a wry smile. "Have you picked your underwear? If you have, then pay the bill quickly and let's leave." Hu Qingsong nodded and hurriedly paid the bill. He and Tan Xiu bypassed the crowd and prepared to go outside. At this moment, the fat woman had already crawled up from the ground. Even when Yu Zhigang stopped the surrounding women, she hurriedly ran to the store's entrance and forcefully closed the door. She then shouted, "Shut the fuck up. You dare to hit this old lady? Do you know who this old lady is? You can't leave. I'll call my husband and take all of you to the police station and slap you to death." In a flash, the chaotic scene just now suddenly became dead silent. Everyone stared at the fat woman with a dumbfounded and incredulous expression. "Husband? This fat woman has a husband?" Tan Xiu furrowed his brows and shot a disgusted look at the fat woman. Then, he said in a deep voice, "Get out of the way." The fat woman had long seen Tan Xiu. Although Tan Xiu was very handsome and tempted her, she was furious and didn't want to give face to anyone in the store. She angrily cursed, "This old lady won't give way. Do you have the fucking ability to hit me? Let me tell you something. My husband is the deputy chief of the city public security bureau and has a lot of power in his hands. I'll make sure you stay in jail if you dare to make a move." A cold glint flashed in Tan Xiu's eyes as he lightly said, "Does your confidence come from your husband?" The fat woman puffed up her chest and loudly cursed, "Yeah, it comes from my husband. What are you going to do about it?" Tan Xiu was furious. He turned to look at Hu Qingsong and said, "Old Hu, this woman is courting death. How about we fulfill her wish?" Hu Qingsong angrily nodded. "Everyone, did you hear it?" Tan Xiu said aloud. "Since this woman told everyone not to leave, then no one will leave today. I'd like to see what kind of ability this woman who spews shit has." At this moment, Yu Zigong was almost scared to death by the unforeseen event in front of him. How could he know that the husband of this fat woman was the deputy chief of the Shanghai Public Security Bureau? If this matter was exposed, he would be regarded as the third party and would be killed. Chapter 567. Yu Zigong didn't expect that the fat woman was just like her appearance, with a pig's body and a pig's brain. It was true that these people were very hateful, but this fat woman was even more hateful. She had such a powerful husband, yet she still spent money to seduce him. Wasn't this just harming him? "Get out of my way." Yu Zigong dashed to the fat woman and pushed her to the side. An incredulous expression appeared on the fat woman's face. She never dreamed that it was Yu Zigong who pushed her. Shouldn't the two of them be on the same side at this time? "Yu Zigong, are you out of your mind? It's fine if they bully me, but you actually help them bully me?" After the fat woman reacted, she grabbed Yu Zigong's arm and blocked the door with her fat body, not letting Yu Zigong leave no matter what. Yu Zigong angrily shouted, "Get the hell out of my way, you idiot." The fat woman flew into a rage and cursed, "Yu Zigong, you bitch. This old lady is helping you, yet you dare to turn around and curse me? I'll fight you." Slap, Yu Zigong raised his hand and slapped the fat woman's face, angrily cursing, "Wake up, bitch. What's our relationship? If you tell this to your husband, will he come to support you? Or will he come and kill us both?" "My husband will naturally come to support us, the fat woman roared. Halfway through her roaring, she suddenly realized something and swallowed the rest of the words back into her stomach. That's right. She spent money to keep a gigolo outside. If her husband knew about it, he would definitely kill her. No, she must never contact her husband. The fat woman panicked and quickly released Yu Zigong. With a nervous face, she said, Yes. You're right. I was so angry just now that I became muddle-headed. Let's go." "Wait." Tan Xiu blocked the two and sneered, "You wanna go? I think you're dreaming, aren't you? Didn't you just scold me to your heart's content? Also, your cuckold husband, the deputy director of the Public Security Bureau. Can't he help you deal with me? Call him here, else you won't be able to leave this place." "Yes, we can't let them go." The woman who had just been slapped had already finished her call. She quickly ran to Tan Xiu's side and stopped Yu Zigong and the fat woman with Tan Xiu. The other customers also came to their senses and quickly blocked the exit of the shop. They all looked at the two of them with gloating expressions. The plump woman panicked even more. Yu Zigong's complexion was a bit pale and his eyes seemed to be able to spurt out flames as he stared at Tan Xiu and said in a deep voice, "Brother, we were in the wrong just now, but one must always leave some leeway so that we can meet again later. Let us leave. Let's just treat this as a misunderstanding." Tan Xiu didn't intend to make things difficult for them. He was just angry that the woman's words were too harsh. Moreover, this was a women's underwear store. He really didn't want to stay any longer. These days, there were too many people who wanted to have sex after eating their fill. He couldn't be bothered to care whether others were having an affair or not. Make this woman apologize. Tan Xiu pointed to the fat woman and said. Yu Zigong quickly pulled the fat woman and scolded, "What are you waiting for? Apologize to her." The fat woman wished that she could find a hole to burrow into at this moment. She was still arrogant and domineering just now and didn't put these people in her eyes. But in the blink of an eye, she had to apologize to them. This kind of grievance almost drove her crazy. However, compared to her husband knowing that she kept a gigolo outside, she suddenly felt that apologizing was nothing. I'm sorry. Tan Xiu coldly snorted and said, "Apologize to everyone, including the woman you just slapped." The woman who had just been slapped directly waved her hand and said, "I don't need her to apologize. I don't care if she's having an affair or if her husband has some ability. This matter is not over yet." Tan Xiu shot a deep look at the woman. After a moment of silence, he looked at the pale Chen Xiaowan and sighed inwardly, "What about you? Will you stay? Or do you want to leave?" Chen Xiaowan didn't dare to look at Tan Xiu. Even when Tan Xiu asked her, her eyes were a bit evasive. After hesitating for a moment, she whispered, "She was slapped because she helped me. I can't leave." "You're still as stubborn as ever." Tan Xiu snorted coldly and continued, "Give me your cell phone." Chen Xiaowan hesitated for a moment before she shook her head and said, "I don't have one." Tan Xiu was furious inwardly and said, "It's fine if you don't want to tell me. Come to the Everlasting Feast Hall and find me if you encounter any trouble later. They will contact me." Having said that, he turned around and walked out of the restaurant. Hu Qingsong was stunned. He looked at Chen Xiaowan, who lowered her head and didn't speak, and then looked at Tan Xiu, who directly left. A strange expression appeared in his eyes. He seemed to smell something unusual between the two of them. After chasing after them, he asked in a low voice while carrying the bag, "Big Bro Tang, do you know that Chen Xiaowan before?" Tan Xiu nodded lightly and didn't speak. Hu Qingsong looked at Tan Xiu's indifferent expression and had to suppress his curiosity deep inside. A few minutes later, Yu Zigong pulled the fat woman and rushed out of the Wanmao shopping plaza, while the beaten woman followed behind them. Chen Xiaowan didn't know what the woman wanted to do, so she could only follow behind her. "You don't need to follow me. I'll handle this matter." The woman suddenly stopped and looked at Chen Xiaowan. Chen Xiaowan bit her lower lip and stubbornly shook her head. "I'm the one who implicated you. If you don't want to let this go, I'll bear it with you. Suit yourself." The woman snorted coldly. She watched Yu Zigong and the fat woman get into an Audi in the parking lot outside. She immediately took out the car key and quickly entered a nearby Porsche. Without hesitation, Chen Xiaowan opened the Porsche's front seat door and quickly sat inside. On the nearby street, Tan Xiu had been observing the outside of the Wanmao shopping plaza. Upon seeing the people who just had a conflict come out, he turned to look at Hu Qingsong in the front seat and said, "Would you like to take a taxi and go back first? Do you need my help?" asked Hu Qingsong after a moment of hesitation. "No need," Tan Xiu shook his head. "All right, then I'll go back first." Hu Qingsong nodded. "Call me promptly if anything happens. I'll rush there as fast as I can." "All right," replied Tan Xiu. His eyes then fell on the two cars that had already entered the road. After starting the car, he tailed the two cars all the way. Tan Xiu didn't expect that he would meet Chen Xiaowan today. He didn't even recognize her at first. If it weren't for him feeling that she looked familiar and thinking about it for a long time, it would have been very difficult for him to see her again in this lifetime. She was an acquaintance. He used to be very familiar with her. She was also the first woman who tempted Tan Xiu. When he was in junior high school, she was his cousin, Sujinin's classmate and good sister. Not only did she help him a lot when he was in Star City, but she also bought a lot of things for Tan Xiu when she went back to the Su family village with Sujinin. Tan Xiu still remembered that many of his firsts were caused by this woman. The first time an outsider gave him pocket money, it was Qin Shaowan, who was 5 or 6 years older than him. The first time someone organized a birthday party for him, it was also Qin Shaowan. The first time he saw a woman bathing naked, it was also Qin Shaowan. However, that accident made Qin Shaowan hate him very much. She misunderstood that he deliberately peeked at her. Later on, he came to the immortal world by a freak combination of factors. He also had a small wish to see Qin Shaowan again and explain it to her. If it weren't for that accident, I'm afraid I would have a big sister to love me now. Compared to Qin Shaowan, who isn't related by blood, Sujinin is just too lacking. Tan Xiu felt a bit regretful inside. Hongkou District, at the intersection of Zhongqiang Road. 2 SUVs violently rushed out and drove side by side with Yu Zigang's Audi. One of the SUVs directly hit the front of the Audi. As the Audi suddenly shifted, it was knocked over by the SUV behind it. After a simple stop, the 2 slightly damaged SUVs quickly left. The Porsche behind them stopped at the roadside. The woman in the driver's seat turned to look at the dumbfounded Qin Shaowan, who was caught unprepared by the unforeseen event in front. She lightly smiled and said, "You're Miss Chen, right? You're very good. At the very least, you're a responsible woman. Now that the resentment in my heart has been vented, you can go." Ah, Qin Shaowan was still in a daze. The woman raised her brows and said, "I mean, you can get off now." Qin Shaowan got off the car in a daze. As the Porsche disappeared at the end of the road in the distance, she seemed to wake up from a dream. Heavens! The 2 SUVs that just hit and overturned Yu Zigang's Audi were called by that woman? Who the hell was she? She turned out to be murder. Standing on the roadside, Qin Shaowan took out her mobile with mixed feelings. She wanted to call an ambulance, but the thought of saving the man she hated made her unable to press the dial button. Creak. Tan Xiu parked the car next to Qin Shaowan and indifferently looked at the overturned Audi on the roadside. After getting off the car, he directly grabbed Qin Shaowan's wrist, opened the front seat, and pushed her inside. "You, what are you doing?" shouted Qin Shaowan angrily when she saw Tan Xiu sitting in the driver's seat. She watched him start the car and drive forward. A forced smile appeared on Tan Xiu's face as he said, "It's been a few years, Sis Shaowan. Can't you listen to my explanation about the matter at that time?" Qin Shaowan fell into silence. She was indeed very angry with Tan Xiu back then, but the real reason why she avoided Tan Xiu was not entirely because of that matter, but because of Sujinin's attitude. Had it not been for the big quarrel she had with Sujinin on Tan Xiu's birthday, she would probably still have regarded Tan Xiu as her younger brother. What a pity! It was a pity that Tan Xiu was Sujinin's younger brother, not hers. Even though she liked the sensible, well-behaved, kind-hearted and gentle Tan Xiu. Chapter 568. As the deputy director of the Municipal Public Security Bureau, Feng Kong, who held real power, had never imagined that one day he would be cuckolded by his wife, who was as fat as a pig. What's more, he didn't expect that this matter would be exposed in public. So much so that the 6 or 7 police officers he brought with him looked at him with strange eyes. Pa! Feng Kong was furious and slapped the woman's face and angrily shouted, "Shut the hell up! Talk nonsense again and I'll arrest you for slandering others." The woman who was slapped covered her cheek and shouted, "Heavens! The police hit someone. His wife keeps a gigolo and made him wear a green hat, and then he got into a car accident here. I told him the truth, yet he got angry out of shame and slapped me. Is there still any law in this country? Everyone, please be the judge. How can the police hit someone?" Feng Kong was furious and slapped her, but he immediately regretted it. No matter what, he was the deputy chief of the City Public Security Bureau and shouldn't have hit someone in public. Sure enough, the crowd in the surroundings immediately stirred up. Everyone looked dissatisfied, and many of them even stood up to criticize Feng Kang's profiteering methods. Among them, some people were arranged by those with ulterior motives to fan the flames in the crowd, arousing the anger of the surrounding people. Sitting in the car, Tan Xiu watched the unforeseen event in front of him. He turned his head to look at Qin Shaowan and praised, "That woman is really ruthless. She arranged all kinds of links to each other. I'm afraid that it's not only Yu Zigang and that fat woman who will be out of luck this time, but even the deputy chief of the Public Security Bureau will be implicated. Could it be that the policeman who hit her is that fat woman's husband?" asked Qin Shaowan in a low voice. "That should be the case," said Tan Xiu with a light smile. "Else, why would the people from the Public Security Bureau come to the scene instead of the traffic police? Also, the woman who announced that his wife was having an affair was obviously arranged by someone else. But that policeman actually hit her with a furious expression on his face. This situation can only mean that he's the unlucky cuckold man." Qin Shaowan nodded and suddenly turned to look at Tan Xiu with a bit of embarrassment. She then said in a low voice, "Can you please not say the word cuckold again? I also seem to have one on my head." Cough, cough. Qin Shaowan's words made Tan Xiu choke. He was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh as he looked at her. Then, he forced a smile and said, "It's all in the past, Sis Shaowan. Don't take it to heart. Just treat it as if you've been bitten by a pet dog you like very much. Just kick it away." Pet dog? Qin Shaowan was stunned when she heard this, and then a smile appeared on her beautiful face. Next to the ambulance, Feng Kang was facing the accusations from countless onlookers. He wanted to figure out the truth thoroughly. He grabbed the woman and said in a deep voice, "I apologize for my behavior just now, but you must also take responsibility for your words. How can you prove that the two of them have a shady relationship?" The woman said angrily, "How? Do I still need to prove it?" Dozens of people had seen what they did at the Karim Gilson lingerie store in the Wan Trade shopping center. "If you don't believe me, you can go to Karim Gilson and investigate." Feng Kang let go of the woman, turned his head and shouted, "Li Hu, go to the Wan Trade shopping center and investigate what she said. I'll follow you to the hospital and wait for your news there." "Affirmative." The young policeman replied and quickly left with the two. As the ambulance left, the accident investigation team arrived and towed the overturned off-road vehicle away. Only then did the surrounding onlookers slowly disperse. Tan Xiu drove the car and followed the ambulance to the Shanghai hospital. When he parked in the hospital's parking lot, his expression suddenly moved and said, "Sis Shaowan, do you want to solve this big problem of Yu Zigang once and for all?" "How?" Qin Shaowan was confused. "Transfer 100,000 yuan to Yu Zigang's account now," said Tan Xiu with a light smile. So many people heard his threat in Karim Gilson. This can also be regarded as extortion and blackmail. I have a way to make him spend 8 to 10 years in prison because of this 100,000 yuan. Qin Shaowan looked at Tan Xiu with a dumbfounded expression. After a long while, she bitterly shook her head and said, "Forget it. He has already received the punishment he deserves. It's too hard on him." Tan Xiu sighed inwardly. He somewhat regretted his proposal just now. Qin Shaowan was sometimes very tough on the surface, but she had a very kind heart and soft-heartedness was her biggest characteristic. In this aspect, she was actually comparable to his mother, Su Lingyun. "Since you don't have the heart to do it, then forget it. Let's wait here. I'm sure the news will come out soon." "All right." More than an hour later, Tan Xiu used his spiritual sense to monitor the situation and found that the policeman sent by Feng Kang to the Wan Trade shopping center had returned. After reporting the investigation at the operating room's door, Feng Kang flew into a rage and kicked open the operating room's door. He rushed in and beat Yu Zigang, who was receiving treatment. Even 4 or 5 doctors couldn't stop him. Finally, he picked up a scalpel and fiercely cut Feng Kang's lower body. Castrated? Tan Xiu was dumbfounded and a strange emotion rippled inside him. Qin Shaowan was a bit dazed, so she didn't see the change in Tan Xiu's expression. It didn't take long for Tan Xiu to call her to get off the car and walk toward the building not far away. Then, the voices of many people passed into their ears. It's really strange. A policeman actually beat a wounded patient who is really receiving surgery. According to the news, the police officer castrated the other party for some reason. He became a living eunuch. Yeah, he really became a living eunuch. I heard the scene was very tragic. Chen Xiaowan's footsteps halted and she turned to look at Tan Xiu. Although Tan Xiu could clearly observe it with his spiritual sense, he couldn't expose the problem of his spiritual sense. Therefore, he deliberately showed a surprised expression and whispered, "It can't be true, right?" Chen Xiaowan was silent for a while before she suddenly pulled Tan Xiu's arm. A satisfied smile appeared on her beautiful face as she said, "I don't want to hear or watch the rest of the story. Let's go." Tan Xiu let out a faint smile and said, "Let's go have a meal." The duo no longer stayed and wasted time. After leaving the hospital, they rushed to the everlasting feast hall. On the way, Tan Xiu made a phone call and asked someone to pay attention to the situation in the hospital. At the everlasting feast hall, Qi Nan had been living a comfortable life recently. She learned from Tan Xiu in advance that she could obtain a lot of precious medicinal herbs and could exchange them for a lot of cultivation resources at the HQ in Jingmen Island. Therefore, it only took her half a month to spend all her money to buy precious medicinal herbs, thus becoming the first batch of members to exchange for a lot of medicinal pills. As a result, her cultivation speed had advanced by leaps and bounds, and she was just a step away from breaking through to the foundation establishment stage. Furthermore, as a reward, the Everlasting Feast Hall's HQ in Jingmen Island rewarded her with some medicinal pills, which made her more satisfied. At present, the only regret she had was that she had no money and was very poor. Where can I get some money? Qi Nan thought for a while and then decided to take the time to play underground car racing. It was her strong point, and it wouldn't be a problem for her to make money to exchange for cultivation resources. Huh. Just as she lazily leaned on the window on the second floor, she suddenly saw the figure of her boss, Tan Xiu, appear at the restaurant's entrance, accompanied by a beautiful woman. Boss's luck with women is really heaven-defying. The thought flashed in Qi Nan's mind as she strode outside the office. In just a minute or two, she appeared in front of Tan Xiu. "Hello, boss." "Qi Nan, apply for a VIP card for my sister," Tan Xiu said with a faint smile. Qi Nan stared blankly for a moment before she respectfully said with a smile, "Boss, the identity of this VIP is, Sis Xiaowan, follow Qi Nan to apply for a VIP card." Tan Xiu said with a smile. "I'll order the dishes downstairs and wait for you to come back. You're the Everlasting Feast Hall's boss, Tan Xiu." Chen Xiaowan was surprised. "That's right," Tan Xiu said with a smile. Chen Xiaowan was somewhat shocked inwardly. As a senior executive of a large foreign company, she had once visited the Everlasting Feast Hall for a meal. She naturally knew that the Everlasting Feast Hall was the most high-end restaurant in Shanghai. Even an ordinary meal here would probably cost thousands of yuan. Despite having a good annual income, she didn't dare to eat here often. She only came here a few times with the company's leaders. She couldn't figure out how Tan Xiu became the Everlasting Feast Hall's boss. It was because the Everlasting Feast Hall had been operating in Shanghai for many years, and Tan Xiu should only be a junior high student at that time, right? A few minutes later, after Chen Xiaowan followed Qi Nan to apply for a VIP card, they came to a good table on the first floor. She then sat opposite to Tan Xiu and asked about the confusion in her heart. Tan Xiu didn't want to tell her the reason, so he casually made up a reason and smoothly brushed it off. During the meal, the two talked a lot, such as how they had been living in the past few years. Of course, it was mainly Chen Xiaowan who spoke, while Tan Xiu was a good listener. However, the Japanese company where Chen Xiaowan worked slightly surprised Tan Xiu, because he had heard of it. "Alright, let's not talk about me first. Let's talk about you." didn't you say that you started your business before the college entrance test? What kind of business is it? Asked Qin Shaowan with a smile. Sister Shaowan, you should have heard of the magnificent Tang Corporation, right? Asked Tan Xiu. Of course I have. Qin Shaowan nodded and smilingly said, the magnificent Tang Corporation is a company with limitless potential in the country. The cosmetics produced by this company are simply women's favorite. Unfortunately, the sales volume is limited. I only bought it once and spent more than 2 months' salary. Suddenly, her smile froze on her face, and her eyes were filled with disbelief. Chapter 569. Tan Xiu smiled and said, if you like the skin care lotion, Sis Shaowan, I'll send some to you later. Qin Shaowan nearly jumped up from her chair and looked at Tan Xiu with a surprised expression. She suddenly felt as though she was dreaming. She once thought that she would never meet Tan Xiu again in this life. Never did she expect that there seemed to be a thread in the dark that pulled the two of them to meet again. It was once. Tan Xiu's life was very bitter. She liked that sensible and well-behaved boy, so she treated him as a younger brother. But she never expected that he would make such a name for himself in just 4 or 5 years. It was the magnificent Tang Corporation. It was a dark horse in the business world with an unstoppable momentum. Tan Xiu, you're not lying to me, are you? Asked Qin Shaowan with a trembling voice. Do you think I'm the kind of person who likes to brag, Sis Shaowan? Tan Xiu shrugged his shoulders and chuckled. Qin Shaowan hesitated for a moment before shaking her head. You don't look like it. But it's too shocking. How did you do it? Just do it seriously, said Tan Xiu with a smile. Qin Shaowan snappily rolled her eyes at him and resentfully said, I originally thought that after I graduated from college, I not only came to Shanghai, but I also found a job in a foreign company of a large international group. I also worked hard to climb up to the management level of the company, earning a good income and living a very comfortable life. I'm already considered very successful. But compared to you, I'm just worlds apart. Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing and said, don't compare. It's fine as long as you think you're successful. You're just like those children born with a golden spoon in their mouths. They may have hundreds of millions of wealth the moment they landed on this earth. Qin Shaowan felt relieved and said with a smile, what you said makes sense. But I'm really shocked by your achievements. I'll treat you today. You must treat me to a good meal some other day. Do you think you can treat me today, Sis Shaowan? Tan Xiu forced a wry smile. Huh? Qin Shaowan stared blankly for a moment before recalling that the owner of the everlasting feast hall was Tan Xiu. Even if she rushed to pay the bill, the cashier wouldn't dare to accept it. All right. It's your treat today. I'll treat you another day. Qin Shaowan gave Tan Xiu a defeated look. She didn't have any other thoughts because of Tan Xiu's identity. In her eyes, although Tan Xiu had grown up, he was still the boy who used to be very sensible and obedient and called her sister. Tan Xiu asked curiously, Sister Shaowan, you said you work for a Japanese company. What's the name of the company? What kind of business do you do? Brisk Trading Group, a retail company, said Qin Shaowan with a smile. Tan Xiu noted down the name of the company and then accompanied Qin Shaowan to have a meal. He then drove her back to her residence, Shanghai's Jingning District, Bishan Lake District. Qin Shaowan originally wanted to invite Tan Xiu upstairs, but Tan Xiu found an excuse to refuse. After driving away from Bishan Lake District, he received a call from a member of the Everlasting Feast Hall, informing him about what happened in Shanghai Hospital and Feng Kang's fate. You mean? Feng Kang has been suspended by the Public Security Bureau for investigation? Tan Xiu asked while driving while wearing a Bluetooth headset. That's right. What he did was too bad and seriously affected the reputation of the public security system. Therefore, his superiors ordered him to be suspended, and an investigation team has been sent to investigate him. A low and deep voice came from the phone. I see. Tan Xiu hung up the phone with a bitter smile on his face. Speaking of which, Feng Kong could be considered as having 8 lifetimes of bad luck. He originally held a steady position in the Municipal Public Security Bureau and was considered as a person with real power. Never did he expect that his fat and ugly wife would actually cheat on him and make him a cuckold. It was fine if he was made a cuckold, but he lost his mind out of anger and even castrated Yu Zigong in the hospital's operating room. Tan Xiu thought for a while and then dialed his family's patriarch's number. Ha ha ha, how come you suddenly remembered to call me, Xiu? I just mentioned you to your third grandpa. Tang Guosheng's hearty laughter came from the phone. Grandpa, our Tang family has safely passed through the crisis, and the Yao family, the biggest threat to us, has fallen. Are you in a good mood? Tan Xiu said with a smile. Indeed. Tang Guosheng laughed. Since you're in a good mood, can you do me a favor? I want to protect someone, said Tan Xiu. Tang Guosheng was surprised. Protect someone? Who? What's his identity? Tang Guosheng was surprised. Tan Xiu told him about Feng Kang's matter and finally said, Grandpa, I want to work in Shanghai. If I have someone in the Public Security Bureau, it will be very convenient for me to handle a lot of things in the future. Feng Kang is facing a great disaster now. If I help him at this time, I'll definitely be able to smoothly make him work for me. Tang Guosheng pondered for a moment and said, no problem. I'll immediately use my connections. All his troubles will be solved by tomorrow afternoon at the latest. No hurry, said Tan Xiu. It's best to wait for 2 days. Tang Guosheng stared blankly and instantly understood Tan Xiu's meaning. Feng Kang was now in a crisis. If he helped him solve it immediately, he was afraid that he wouldn't be grateful. But if he helped him when he was at the end of his rope and suffering from mental torture, he would definitely be grateful and would be better used by his grandson in the future. I understand. Then let him enjoy it for 2 days. Kangxiao Villa Complex in Shanghai. Nijia was in a good mood today. Although she was slapped by a crazy woman when she was shopping in the mall, everything she did was to vent the anger in her heart. Daughter, what are you giggling about? Ni Pengang sat on the sofa in the living room with his legs crossed, reading a financial magazine in his hand. He suddenly noticed that his daughter, who was sitting in front of him, was giggling like a fool, so he immediately asked with a smile. It's nothing. I just cleaned up a mad dog today, so I'm in a good mood. Nijia held back her laughter. Dad, you should have heard of the Deputy Chief of the Public Security Bureau, Feng Kang, right? Ni Pengang stared blankly for a moment before he nodded and said, I know him. He's a deputy chief with a promising future. I heard that he's Old Wei's old subordinate. Maybe he can be promoted to a permanent position next year. He'll never be able to be promoted to a permanent position. Nijia giggled. I used a trick today to pull him down from his high horse. I just got the news that he's been suspended for investigation. Ni Pengang suddenly straightened up and asked in surprise, what happened? Nijia recounted what happened today and finally said, he can only blame that shameless wife of his. She's arrogant and domineering. Look at my face, the palm print still hasn't completely disappeared. Ni Pengang's brows deeply furrowed as he nodded and said, since you've cleaned them up, then let this matter be settled. But it's a pity that some of Old Wei's arrangements will be affected. Dad, I don't care about Uncle Wei's affairs, said Nijia proudly. You once taught me that I won't offend people if they don't offend me, but I'll pay them back tenfold if they offend me. Feng Kang's wife hit me, so I'll pay her back. But that woman called Chen Xiaowan is pretty good. I like her very much. Since you like her, then poach her to help you manage your business. Ni Pengang laughed. I hope she has the ability. All right. Nijia giggled. At Blue Star Villa Complex. After Tan Xiu came back, he was pleasantly surprised to see Dai Xinyue. She originally planned to come to Shanghai after the National Day holiday. But something happened at home, so it was delayed for a month. Have you solved the problem at home? asked Tan Xiu while looking at Dai Xinyue, who was obediently staying beside Kang Xia. Yeah, it's all done, said Dai Xinyue with a smile. You can find a room on the first floor and live here from now on, said Tan Xiu. Also, I may be busy a lot, so you can read and study by yourself when I'm not here. I'll teach you some things when I have time. If your medical skills progress fast during the New Year's Day, I'll take you to a hospital for your internship. Dai Xinyue's eyes lit up and respectfully said, I'll listen to your arrangement, master. Tan Xiu turned to look at Kang Xia and asked, have you had dinner? What's your plan for tonight? Yeah, I've had dinner, said Kang Xia. Xinyue and I are going to go shopping. She has been to Shanghai before, but she didn't have a chance to stroll around. Alright, you can go now, said Tan Xiu. I'm going out for a while, and I'm afraid I'll be back very late. Where are you going? Asked Kang Xia. There's an old acquaintance in Hong Kong who sent me a batch of things, said Tan Xiu. I need to meet him and talk about something. Upon hearing it, Kang Xia nodded and said, then go and busy yourself. We'll go out later. Tan Xiu returned to the study room on the second floor. He subconsciously wanted to release the fierce beast he had subdued to feed it. But when he came to the corner and saw that the array had been removed, he suddenly remembered that he had thrown the fierce beast to resting Cemetery Island a few days ago. I'll be busy. After taking a shower, Tan Xiu returned to the study room and began to draw the plans of Clam Island and Resting Cemetery Island. In particular, he needed to design the plan of Clam Island's herb planting area. After all, the medicinal properties of the herbs were different, so he must think clearly in advance about which area to plant which herbs. Before he could finish drawing half of the Clam Island's plan, Tan Xiu received a call and learned that the medicinal herbs sent by Li Juren had left the highway and were now heading toward the Everlasting Feast Hall. He was full of expectations for the medicinal herbs sent by Li Juren. After returning to the Everlasting Feast Hall, Tan Xiu had just chatted with Qi Nan for a while when a container truck arrived at the Everlasting Feast Hall, escorted by 4 off-road vehicles. Under the guidance of the Everlasting Feast Hall's staff, the 5 vehicles drove into the Everlasting Feast Hall's backyard. Hello, Mr. Tang. Our boss asked me to give you the medicinal herbs. All of them are now in the truck. This is a list of all the medicinal herbs. Please have a look. A refined middle-aged man recognized Tan Xiu at first glance. Tan Xiu took the list. After reading it, a satisfied smile appeared on his handsome face as he said, leave the container truck here. Find a hotel to stay in and come here early tomorrow morning to drive the truck away. Chapter 570. As the 4 SUVs left, Tan Xiu asked Qi Nan to drive away all the staff in the backyard and ordered that no one was allowed to come in. Only then did he personally open the door of the container truck. Inside the container truck, there were a total of 88 black suitcases, each of which was filled with medicinal herbs. According to the 2 prescriptions Tan Xiu had given before, there were a total of 88 kinds of precious medicinal herbs. Tan Xiu opened the suitcases one by one, checking the medicinal properties and age of the medicinal herbs before storing them into his interspatial ring one by one. After storing all the suitcases into his interspatial ring, a bit of regret appeared on his face. Li Juren had sent his men to collect all the precious medicinal herbs needed to refine the marrow cleansing pill and could definitely refine hundreds of marrow cleansing pills. Although he had almost collected all the precious medicinal herbs needed to refine the Essence Longevity Pill, he only found the 500-year-old Polygonum multiflorum among the 3 most important medicinal herbs. The Millennium Snow Lotus and the Flying Guillotine were nowhere to be found. According to the proportion of medicinal herbs needed to refine the Essence Longevity Pill, these medicinal herbs sent by Li Juren can at least refine hundreds of Essence Longevity Pills. Unfortunately, without the Millennium Snow Lotus and the Flying Guillotine, it will be very difficult to refine the Essence Longevity Pill. Tan Xiu suppressed the regret at the bottom of his heart. He knew that one must not be greedy. It was already a very big harvest to be able to get the medicinal herbs needed to refine the marrow cleansing pill and the Essence Longevity Pill. The Millennium Snow Lotus and the Flying Guillotine were medicinal herbs that could only be found by chance but not sought. Tan Xiu had obtained the Millennium Snow Lotus before, but it had been used by Ji Qimei to refine the pill. Haste makes waste. Tan Xiu understood this truth. After closing the container truck's door, he turned to look at Qi Nan at the side and found that she was looking at him with a somewhat different expression. If you can reach a satisfactory level, you will also have your own interspatial ring in the future. Alright, I still have other things to do, so I'll go back first. After saying that, Tan Xiu drove the car away from the everlasting feast hall. Qi Nan quietly watched the car leave, her heart filled with anticipation. She wanted to have a lot of cultivation resources, which was more like having her own interspatial ring. She was very clear about one thing. If she had an interspatial ring, it would be much more convenient no matter where she went and what she did in the future. The first task is to get money. Qi Nan clenched her fists, her eyes filled with determination. It was midnight. When Tan Xiu returned to the Blue Star Villa complex, he found that Kang Xia hadn't rested yet. She was quietly sitting on the bed, looking at the financial statements. The sales of the newly launched health products had achieved very good results. The return of the funds also made the magnificent Tang Corp's financial situation more prosperous. However, Kang Xia knew that Tan Xiu had a big plan, especially the internal purchase of real estate in Star City's new city, as well as the establishment of the headquarters building, factory construction, equipment configuration, and so on before moving to Shanghai. There were a lot of things that needed to be spent. Still awake? Tan Xiu asked with a smile after taking off his coat and hanging it up. Kang Xia closed the financial statement and chuckled, "I'll be waiting for you to come back. I'm going back to Star City tomorrow since there are still a lot of things waiting for me to deal with in the company." "Have you booked the plane tickets?" asked Tan Xiu. "I'll take you to the airport tomorrow." "I've booked it." Although Kang Xia was reluctant in her heart, she still said in a soft voice. That night, both of them were crazy as they hugged each other and slept. The next morning, Tan Xiu sent Kang Xia to Shanghai Airport. After she left, on the way back to Blue Star Villa complex, Tan Xiu received a call from Yang Lu. Originally, he took Yang Lu to Jingmen Island because he needed him to do something. But because it was solved easily and the Tang family had put in a lot of effort, Yang Lu became idle instead. After he went to the imperial capital, Yang Lu stayed in Jingmen Island for a while before returning to Shanghai with Han Qinggu. After returning home, just as Tan Xiu entered the hall, he saw Yang Lu and Dai Xinyue staring at each other. He let out a faint smile and said, "You two should already know each other, right?" "No, I don't." Dai Xinyue and Yang Lu replied in unison. Immediately after, they fiercely glared at each other and turned their faces to the side at the same time. Tan Xiu was startled and didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he said, "What's wrong? Did you two have a misunderstanding?" Dai Xinyue got up and said, "Master, this guy is a rogue." Yang Lu also hurriedly got up and angrily said, "Don't listen to this girl's nonsense, Tan Xiu. It's a misunderstanding. Who knows she's in the toilet? I came here because I was in a hurry, so I..." Tan Xiu instantly understood and said with a smile, "All right. Since it's a misunderstanding, let's just talk about it." "Yang Lu, you called me and said you have a very important matter to discuss with me." "What's the specific matter?" Yang Lu pointed to Dai Xinyue and said, "Brother Tan Xiu, I don't trust this girl. Tell her to leave." Tan Xiu stared blankly. Dai Xinyue snappily glared at Yang Lu and disdainfully said, "Who wants to hear it?" "Master, I'll go out with Auntie Zhang to buy groceries." "Do you have anything you need to buy?" "I'll bring it back for you." "No." Tan Xiu shook his head. As Dai Xinyue and the nanny Zhang Xinlan left, Yang Lu came to Tan Xiu's side and whispered, "My eldest senior brother has returned to China and is now in Shanghai." "Yao Qinglong?" asked Tan Xiu with furrowed brows. "Yes, it's him." Yang Lu nodded. I just got a message from him, saying that he has come to Shanghai and wants to meet me. The Yao family in the imperial capital is almost finished. Those who were lucky enough to escape the calamity have left the imperial capital in a hurry and are hiding through various means, said Tan Xiu. Yao Qinglong has returned to China at this time, but he didn't appear in the imperial capital and instead came to Shanghai. What does he want to do? Yang Lu shook his head and said, I'm also curious, so I didn't refuse him after he contacted me. Instead, I came to you to discuss it with you. I have a feeling that it's not a good thing for him to suddenly look for me. Tan Xiu thought for a moment and seriously said, go see him and figure out his purpose for looking for you. I remember you once said that Yao Qinglong is very ambitious and has been operating abroad all year round. Nobody knows how much power he has now. I may not be afraid of him, but I'm also afraid of trouble. He's a dangerous factor, so I must do everything I can to get rid of him. Yang Le hesitated for a moment and whispered, if he really wants to be the enemy of your Tang family, can you promise me one thing? Say it. Replied Tan Xiu calmly. No matter what, he's still my eldest senior brother, said Yang Lu. Can you spare his life at the last moment? Asked Yang Lu calmly. It's not impossible to spare his life, but I have many means at my disposal, said Tan Xiu. Do you think it's better to spare his life and let him become a living dead? Or to let him die early and reincarnate early? Yang Lu was silent for a moment. Finally, he nodded and said, just pretend I didn't say anything. I'll help you figure out his purpose for returning to China, but you can solve the problem between you two. I'm going abroad tomorrow, and I'm afraid it'll be some time before I come back. All right. Tan Xiu nodded. He was well aware of Yang Li's character. Being sandwiched between him and his eldest senior brother would be very difficult for him. The reason why he had to go abroad was probably to avoid the suspicion. At noon, Yang Lu met his eldest senior brother, Yao Qinglong, in a coffee shop. To his surprise, not only was Yao Qinglong not pained because of the Yao family's problem, but he looked like a spring breeze and smiled at him. What are you looking for me for? Yang Lu sat on the opposite sofa, still with that cynical look on his face. What do you want to drink? Asked Yao Qinglong with a smile. I can see that whatever you drink doesn't taste right. Yang Lu waved his hand. Spit it out if you have something to say. Don't waste my time. Yao Qinglong seemed to have long been accustomed to Yang Li's attitude. He lightly smiled and said, Junior brother, though master has passed away, we're, after all, martial brothers. Even if I'm not looking for you to reminisce about the old days, shouldn't I? Yang Lu contemptuously said, you're too cunning, and your utilitarian heart is too heavy. I'm afraid that I can't avoid you. Are you going to say it or not? If you don't want to say it, then I'm leaving. Forget it. I've experienced your bad temper many times, said Yao Qinglong. All right, then I'll talk to you about something serious. I need you to help me with a deal. I'll give you a 100 million commission after it's done. 100 million. That's a big deal. Yang Lu looked surprised and his eyes kept lingering on Yao Qinglong. It's indeed a big deal, said Yao Qinglong. Some people have paid a high price to buy the formulas of several products of the Magnificent Tang Corporation, and there have been many people who have set their eyes on the Magnificent Tang Corporation, but all of them have failed. I accepted this deal, so I came to Shanghai directly to find you after returning to the country. Also, second brother and third brother have agreed and are now on the way to Shanghai. The Magnificent Tang Corporation? Yang Lu secretly sighed inwardly. He had some contempt and sympathy for Yao Qinglong. He despised the fact that the Yao family had been ruined and the members of the Yao family were now in a precarious situation, yet Yao Qinglong turned a deaf ear to them and didn't care about their kinship. What he sympathized with was that his target was the Magnificent Tang Corporation. Others might not know the ins and outs of the Magnificent Tang Corporation, but he was perfectly clear about it. With Tan Xiu's fearsome means and those inhuman fellows of the everlasting feast hall, even if Yao Qinglong was a disciple of the thief sect, he wouldn't be able to achieve what he wanted. Yang Lu was silent for a long while before he slowly said, I have a question. You're a member of the Yao family in the imperial capital, right? According to the news I heard recently, the Yao family is very miserable now. They have fallen from the clouds and many of them are now in danger. As a member of the Yao family, you don't seem to care about it, do you? Yao Qinglong squinted his eyes and a murderous intent flashed in them. He then indifferently said, this enmity must be avenged. But do you think I have any chance of winning if I act now? I understand what you mean. You think I'm cold-hearted, don't you? It's never too late for a gentleman to take revenge 10 years later. If you rush to take revenge before you have enough foundation, it's like hitting a stone with an egg. Not only will you not be able to take revenge, but you'll also throw yourself into it. Today's update is completed. Seeking monthly and recommendation votes for support. Chapter 571. Yang Lu agreed with Yao Qinglong's words, but he was well aware of one thing. Yao Qinglong wanting to take revenge on Tan Xiu was absolutely courting his own death. However, in the past, he still had some feelings for Yao Qinglong, but ever since his master died, Yao Qinglong and the others treated him unscrupulously, even wanting to take his life. In the end, he managed to escape. From then on, there was no longer any feelings left for him. Yao Qinglong, surely you haven't forgotten what I told you before, right? We're no longer martial brothers. You're free to do whatever you want, and it has nothing to do with me anymore. If there's nothing else, I won't accompany you anymore. Having said that, he got up from the sofa and was about to leave. Yao Qinglong let out a faint smile and said, Junior brother, it seems that the wealth master gave you before his death is much more than I imagined. Even 100 million can't move you now. Yang Li's expression abruptly changed as he angrily said, the things left by master were obtained by me with my own ability. You're not as good as him, so don't think about those things anymore. Yao Qinglong put on an indifferent expression and lightly said, that old geezer must have calculated that we can't get it, so he left behind that kind of instruction, didn't he? Since he's dead, then his things should be taken out and divided equally. Of course, if you help me get the formula of the magnificent Tang Corporation's products, I'll never mention the things left by master ever again. I'll also compensate second brother and third brother so that they can give up thinking about those things. How about it? Dream on. Yang Lu angrily yelled. I, Yang Lu, am afraid of everything, but I'm not afraid of being threatened. Considering that we're martial brothers, I can let bygones be bygones for plotting against me. But if you dare to oppose me again, don't blame me for being ruthless. Yao Qinglong couldn't help laughing and said, what are you talking about, junior brother? How could your senior brother plot against you? I'm sincerely inviting you to help me. Even if you really don't want to, I won't force you. That's right, if you have something to do, you can go first. If second and third come, we'll go straight to the Blue Star Villa complex to have a drink with you. Yang Lu clenched his fists and a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. Since Yao Qinglong knew where he lived, it meant that they had investigated him. He was threatening him. If he didn't help them, they would most likely attack him. Yao Qinglong smiled and said, Junior brother, it seems that you don't welcome us to your place as guests. If you don't welcome me, I think you should sit down and continue talking with me. Maybe you'll change your mind later. I won't change my mind, said Yang Lu coldly. Of course, I also welcome you to my place as guests. I just hope you don't die. Finished. When Yao Qinglong's smile froze, he turned around and walked out of the cafe. Bang! Yao Qinglong slammed his palm on the table and watched Yang Li's disappearing figure. His heart was filled with murderous intent. Since you don't know the difference between life and death, then I'll let you suffer a bit. I hope that in the face of death, you can still persist. Japan, the top of Mount Fuji. Kawako was hugging her katana and sitting cross-legged under a cherry tree. She was wearing a black exercise suit and allowed the drizzle to wet the ends of her hair. Whoosh, a ghostly figure silently appeared in front of her and knelt on one knee. The woman with a lock of white hair on her forehead respectfully said, "Young master, I've obtained the item and it's on its way here. It should arrive tomorrow morning at the latest." Kawako abruptly opened her eyes with a pleasantly surprised look flashing in them. Then, she said with satisfaction, "They did a good job. That thing isn't of much use to me, but for..." "All right, tell them not to leave any traces." "Understood." The woman in ninja attire replied. Her body twisted and disappeared again. A smile finally appeared on Kawako's face as she said, "Hanako, help me book a plane ticket to Magic City in China. Also, inform my father that I'm going to China to continue discussing the cooperation with the Magnificent Tang Corporation." "Understood." A voice came from behind the tree, but it immediately returned to normal. Shanghai, Blue Star Villa Complex. After Yang Lu came back, he noticed that someone had been following him, so he didn't directly go to Tan Xiu's place. After returning to Villa number 11, he walked to the bedroom window and looked outside before dialing Tan Xiu's number. "You're back." Tan Xiu's voice came out of the phone. "Tan Xiu, I need your help," said Yang Lu. "Speak." "What is it?" asked Tan Xiu. "What is it?" Tang Xiu asked. "Yao Qinglong, Du Yanghe, and Qiu Jian are probably going to attack me tonight. If they make a move, I hope you can help me kill them." Tan Xiu raised his brows and asked, "Why do they want to kill you? Also, how did they know that you're staying here?" "Yao Qinglong should have sent someone to investigate my whereabouts," said Yang Lu. "My whereabouts in Shanghai are very hidden, but I've been staying here for a long time, so they should be able to find me with their ability. Further, I also figured out Yao Qinglong's purpose in looking for me. They want me to help them steal the formulas of several products of the Magnificent Tang Corporation. I refused." "Got it." After saying that, Tan Xiu directly hung up the phone. At first, he wasn't in a hurry to deal with Yao Qinglong. Although Yao Qinglong's identity was a disciple of the thief sect, he didn't put him in his eyes. However, he actually dared to steal the formulas of several products of the Magnificent Tang Corporation, which was absolutely unforgivable. Those formulas were the capital he relied on to make money. If Yao Qinglong were to steal them, his loss would be too great. "There's a road to heaven, yet you refuse to take it. There's no gate to hell, yet you still want to throw yourself into it." Tan Xiu let out a sneer and began to contact Qi Nan. Although he was very strong, he was afraid that some of them would slip through the net if the other party sent too many people. Therefore, he needed the experts of the Everlasting Feast Hall to lay out an inescapable net. Even if the other party sent a large number of experts, they would not be able to return. At the previous coffee shop, Yao Qinglong had never left. He sat alone on the sofa and quietly sipped his coffee while thinking about something in silence. The reason why he returned to China and even rushed to Shanghai was not because he didn't care about the Yao family's current situation, but because he didn't want to expose himself. The Yao family was very important. But that was the former Yao family, the Yao family that could bring him benefits. The current Yao family was like stray dogs, and the entire family's foundation was eroded by others little by little. He had learned from the intelligence that perhaps it wouldn't be long before the Yao family would no longer exist in the imperial capital. However, all of this was not important to him. What was important was the formulas of the Magnificent Tang Corporation's products. He came back this time with an arduous task. "Senior brother. Senior brother." Two voices came from a distance as Du Yanghe and Qiu Jian came before Yao Qinglong with smiles on their faces. Although the three of them each had their own ulterior motives, they seemed to get along well with each other on the surface. Yao Qinglong got up and hugged them. He pointed to the sofa in front of him and asked them to sit down. Then, he said with a smile, "You two came really fast." "Senior brother, we naturally rushed here since you summoned us," said Du Yanghe with a smile. "What about that brat Yang Lu? Didn't you say that you would see him in advance?" "That brat doesn't want to be with us, so he directly left." Yao Qinglong sneered. I think he refuses a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Du Yanghe angrily said. Senior brother, as long as you tell me, I'll kill him today. All the wealth master left for us has been taken by that brat. We didn't kill him last time, so I haven't vented my anger yet. Let's go find him. If he doesn't take out the wealth left by master, we'll kill him, said Qiu Jian coldly. I don't believe that he would rather keep the money and disregard his own life. Don't worry, said Yao Qinglong with a smile. It's daytime now, so it's not suitable for us to act. I've sent some people to investigate his whereabouts and have also sent some people to track him. I believe that he won't be able to get rid of my informants even if he wants to escape now. First, let me tell you the main purpose of coming here. I need to get the formulas of several products developed by the magnificent Tang Corporation. If you can help me get them, I'll give each of you 100 million yuan. Du Yanghe and Qiu Jian looked at each other, and both of them revealed shocked expressions. They were shocked not because they wanted to steal the formulas of the magnificent Tang Corporation's products, but because of the reward promised by Yao Qinglong. 100 million yuan. Even if both of them were disciples of the thief sect and had good skills, as well as their own businesses, their total wealth was probably less than 100 million yuan. Senior brother, that's a big deal. Du Yanghe exclaimed. It's indeed a big deal, but the buyer is willing to pay 400 million yuan, said Yao Qinglong with a smile. I originally planned to give 100 million yuan to each of us 4 brothers, but that brat Yang Lu refused me. It must be because master left him a lot of wealth, said Du Yanghe angrily. Else, it's impossible for him to not be tempted by 100 million yuan. Senior brother, we must kill Yang Lu and get the wealth left by master. At that time, I'll give you 40%, while third brother and I will take 30% each. Yao Qinglong secretly sneered inwardly, yet a satisfied smile appeared on his face as he said, since you agree to this distribution, then I won't be polite. However, if Yang Lu is willing to help me steal the formulas of those products from the magnificent Tang Corporation first, we can't act before we steal the formulas. We'll kill him after we get the formulas. No problem. Du Yanghe and Qiu Jian seemed to be able to see the huge wealth waving at them as they nodded with satisfaction. They had long coveted the wealth left by their master. Unfortunately, their strength was not as good as Yang Li's, so they didn't even get to see the shadow of a penny. As long as they could kill Yang Lu and get the wealth, they were perfectly aware that even 30% was not more than the reward promised by Yao Qinglong. Some of the readers are shouting in the book review section for 100 monthly votes and a chapter update. Since everyone has such a wish, how can the kind and hard-working Silent Knight not fulfill everyone's wish? The latest chapter is ready. Where are the monthly tickets? Chapter 572. Time flew by and night fell in the blink of an eye. As usual, the Blue Star Villa complex was brightly illuminated by the street lamps, and the fragrance of the soil drifted amidst the drizzle. Yang Lu stayed in Villa number 11, quietly hiding in the corner of the attic on the roof, constantly observing the surroundings with the binoculars in his hand. Occasionally, he would also observe the Villa number 9 next door. They're coming. A cold light flashed in Yang Li's eyes. He grabbed the silver pistol in his left hand and aimed its black muzzle at several figures approaching Villa number 11. Although Tan Xiu didn't promise to help him when he contacted Tan Xiu on the phone, he was confident that Tan Xiu would help him. As a matter of fact, the reason why he didn't leave directly was that he used himself as bait to catch a few big fishes for Tan Xiu and get rid of some big troubles for himself. Inside Villa number 9, Tan Xiu quietly stood by the window of his study room, watching the scene outside through the gap of the curtains. When a few ghostly figures silently appeared outside the Villa number 11's courtyard wall, he dialed a number and said, "The fish has taken the bait." At this moment, even Yang Lu himself knew that 2 experts of the everlasting feast hall had been waiting in his bedroom for a long time. They were fiddling with daggers with bloodthirsty glints flashing in their eyes. There were also 8 experts of the everlasting feast hall hiding in other rooms of the villa. Whoosh! 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 A group of martial artists with extraordinary skills easily climbed over the wall. As more than a dozen people used various means to sneak into the villa, 3 figures appeared in the distance. Junior brother, I know you're at home. We came to visit you. Don't tell me you won't open the door and invite us in. Yao Qinglong's loud voice sounded outside the courtyard. In the corner of the attic on the roof, Yang Lu looked at the 3 people standing outside through the gap of the window. He was silent for a while before he came out of the attic and stood on the edge of the roof, saying, since the people you brought can come in, do you still need me to open the door myself? Yao Qinglong and the other 2 exchanged glances. Then, they easily climbed over the courtyard door and quickly appeared in the courtyard. At this moment, the originally pitch-black villa became brightly lit. 6 strong men who had snuck into the villa in advance appeared in the hall on the first floor. Junior brother, there's no need to hide in front of us, right? Yao Qinglong said with a faint smile. Yang Li's figure appeared at the staircase. As he walked down the stairs, his cold gaze swept past the 6 burly men before finally landing on Yao Qinglong and the other 2. After letting out a deep sigh, Yang Lu appeared in front of the trio and said, to tell you the truth, if you didn't come tonight, perhaps I would still care about our kinship and save your lives. Unfortunately, the moment you stepped into my courtyard, the only thing that could happen between us was you die or I die. Du Yanghe sneered and said, I say, little junior brother, who gave you the confidence to talk nonsense to us? Fight to the death. Bah! It means you die and we live. Qiu Jian coldly said, little junior brother, we were careless before and let you escape from us several times. But this time, we've already set up an inescapable net. Even if you grow wings, you won't be able to escape. Therefore, if you don't want to die, hand over all the things left by Master before his death. Else, don't blame us for being ruthless and disregarding our kinship. Yang Lu looked at the trio and suddenly burst into laughter. Ridiculous, really ridiculous. I suddenly have a feeling that Master's death is also related to you, right? Huh? Yao Qinglong, Du Yanghe, and Qiu Jian's complexion slightly changed. Yang Lu was a meticulous person. He instantly felt that something was wrong when he saw the change in their expressions and shouted again, don't think I don't know that Master's body was originally very good, but he suddenly became seriously ill and passed away early. You 3 despicable and shameless villains. You forgot the grace of Master's teachings and even tried to kill him. That's really treacherous and heinous. Yao Qinglong frowned and fell into silence. He looked at Yang Lu and didn't speak. Du Yanghe was a hot-tempered person. Upon hearing Yang Li's words, he directly admitted it, since you already know, then we won't hide it anymore. He's indeed our master, but he favors you more than the 3 of us. If we don't kill him, I'm afraid he'll leave all his treasures to you. Second brother. Yao Qinglong's expression drastically changed and he shouted angrily. Yang Li's pupils shrunk and disbelief filled his eyes as he muttered, I never thought that it was really you who did it. Yao Qinglong took a deep breath and strode a step toward Yang Lu. He then said in an awe-inspiring tone, since you've already swindled the real cause of Master's death from second brother's mouth, then we don't need to hide it anymore. That's right, it's indeed the slow-acting poison we got from the poison sect that finally killed him. Do you want to avenge that old geezer? Yang Li's eyes turned red and he glared at the trio with hatred. He wished he could immediately tear them apart and dismember them into pieces. Yao Qinglong shook his head and sighed, it seems that today's matter won't end well. Yang Lu, I'll give you a chance to live. Take out all the wealth left by that old geezer. Else, tonight will be the day you die. Yang Lu bit his lips and looked at the 3 overbearing bastards. He finally looked up to the sky and roared, Tan Xiu, help me kill them. I, Yang Lu, will be your man in the future and work for you. It's a deal. Tan Xiu's figure flickered and appeared in the hall lightning fast. Behind him, Qi Nan was fiddling with a sharp dagger while looking at Yao Qinglong and the others with a faint smile. Yao Qinglong's complexion greatly changed. The moment Tan Xiu appeared, he recognized Tan Xiu's true identity. He was a member of the Tang family, the culprit who ruined his Yao family. I've been tricked. Yao Qinglong roared and dashed toward the corridor on the left. Tan Xiu didn't move, neither did Qi Nan behind him. Just as Yao Qinglong passed through the corridor and was about to rush into a room, a large foot directly kicked him in the chest, causing his body to fly backward. The door opposite was smashed open by his body. Inside the smashed door, an expert of the everlasting feast hall easily grabbed Yao Qinglong's neck and strode to the hall before throwing him in front of Tan Xiu. Du Yanghe and Qiu Jian were dumbfounded. They never dreamed that things would turn out like this. They were originally full of greed and tried to kill Yang Lu to get the wealth left by their master. But they didn't expect that they would fall into a trap set by someone else instead. Who are you? Du Yanghe's horrified eyes retracted from Yao Qinglong's body as he stared at Tan Xiu and shouted. Tan Xiu shook his head with a smile and said, "You're all idiots. With Yang Li's character, why did he still stay in this villa? Don't tell me you don't know what he's relying on." Hee, who am I? Your question is very interesting, but I don't need to tell you myself. Your eldest senior brother should be able to tell you, right? Am I right? Yao Qinglong. Blood spilled from the corner of Yao Qinglong's mouth. He struggled to crawl up from the ground and glared at Tan Xiu viciously. "You're right. It's all thanks to you that my Yao family has been ruined. It's just that I didn't expect that my stupid junior brother would team up with you and set up this trap for us." "What?" Tan Xiu said with a smile. "Are you afraid?" Yao Qinglong straightened his chest and sneered, "Me? Afraid? There are only a few people in this world who can make me, Yao Qinglong, afraid. You're not one of them. I'm just curious. How did Yang Lu get involved with you?" Tan Xiu pointed to the direction next door and said, "We're neighbors." Neighbors? Yao Qinglong nearly choked to death. Although he had sent some people to investigate that Yang Lu lived in the Blue Star Villa complex, he never expected that Tan Xiu also lived here. "Aka, I need your help." Yao Qinglong grabbed his mobile and dialed a number. "You should be calling for reinforcements, right?" Tan Xiu said with a smile. "It's all right. I'll give you a lot of time to bring out all your energy. But before that, don't let these shrimp soldiers and crab generals you brought here be an eyesore." As Tan Xiu's voice faded away, 6 corpses were thrown into the hall from various places. These people were the hidden martial artists brought by Yao Qinglong's trio. Just as Yao Qinglong's trio's complexion drastically changed, Qi Nan's figure flashed and appeared in front of the 6 stalwart men. Her saber slashed down and the throats of the 6 big men were torn in an instant. Blood splashed as they fell to the ground and twitched, gradually dying. "What a strong smell of blood. I like it." A hoarse voice came from outside the hall. There was no sound of footsteps, but a thin figure appeared at the hall's entrance. He wore a black robe and had long blonde hair. His handsome face was very pale, as though he was the Grim Reaper in a horror movie. After killing the 6 people, Qi Nan had returned to Tan Xiu's side. Her eyes instantly squinted when she saw who it was. She said with a faint smile, "Grim Reaper Aka, since you like the smell of blood, then I'll let you smell your own blood later." Aka, who had a British face, looked at Qi Nan. His body suddenly trembled and his pupils instantly shrunk after he saw Qi Nan's appearance. He almost subconsciously turned around and ran outside. "Come back." Tan Xiu dashed outside like a lightning bolt and appeared in front of Aka in the blink of an eye. With a round of bombardment on Aka's chest, he was directly thrown back to the hall's entrance. "What?" Yao Qinglong's body shook and disbelief burst out from his eyes. He was well aware of Aka's identity. He had spent a great deal of money to hire this expert from the organization. Yet, this recognized expert in the organization was so easily defeated by Tan Xiu. Aka struggled to get up from the ground. His eyes only stayed on Tan Xiu for a moment before they finally fell on Qi Nan. He said with a face full of horror, "Sir Instructor, I didn't expect to see you here. I'm very honored to see your beauty again in this life. Today, the second chapter is here. You still need 20 monthly votes for the third chapter. Brothers and sisters, you can do it. Chapter 573. Even if Tan Xiu's strength was extraordinary, Akka still didn't think that Tan Xiu was more terrifying than Qi Nan. In Akka's eyes, Qi Nan was a demoness who killed without batting an eyelid. She once cleaned up the Mexican drug dealers and was one of the best among the international terrorist forces. Akka didn't expect that. The first time he came to China, he unexpectedly encountered the demonic instructor who had trained him in the past. He didn't expect that he and the demonic instructor would stand on the opposite side. He clearly remembered what Qi Nan once said, "You may be my students now, but if we become enemies in the future, I will use more ruthless and cruel means to make you regret being my enemy." Akka was restless and a bit of hatred toward Yao Qinglong. He could have provoked anyone, but he had to provoke the demonic instructor. Wasn't this just dragging him down? Qi Nan lightly said, "Akka, it's been 4 or 5 years since we last met, right? I didn't expect you to become someone's running dog. Furthermore, you've become my enemy." Akka's expression changed as he panicked and said, "Sir Instructor, I think you misunderstood. Yao Qinglong and I are only in an employer-employee relationship. He gave a lot of money to the organization, so the organization sent me to help him. If I knew you were here, I wouldn't have dared to come even if I had all the money in Citibank." Tan Xiu frowned as he looked at Qi Nan and lightly asked, "Do you know each other?" Qi Nan put away her cold arrogance and respectfully said, "Boss, he used to be a student I trained. He's an outstanding assassin of the Arabian Black Base. However, I don't know which organization he belongs to now." Tan Xiu nodded and looked at Akka, asking, "Tell me the name of your organization." Akka's lips squirmed a few times as he shook his head and said, "I can't say it. Else I'll die a miserable death." Tan Xiu indifferently said, "You'll die a more miserable death if you don't say it. Don't try your luck. I'm a doctor, and I'm known as a divine doctor in China. I have a way to make you suffer incomparable pain and suffering and still survive. Say it. Otherwise, you'll have to endure the pain and torture every night." Akka's expression changed. Even though Tan Xiu's English was very bad, he still understood what Tan Xiu meant. He had also heard of the godly doctor from China. It was a very magical type of doctor. He was in awe of doctors because there was a killer doctor in the organization. He had the ability to save people and kill people. He was definitely a terrifying existence who used torture. Akka shook his head bitterly and said, "I can't say. Otherwise, the whole family will be implicated." Tang Xiu squinted his eyes and a few silver needles appeared in his hand out of thin air. His figure flickered and pierced the needles into Du Yanghe and Qiu Jian's bodies before he flashed back to his previous position. Never in their wildest dreams did Du Yanghe and Qiu Jian expect that Akka's refusal would lead to them being attacked by Tang Xiu. What pained them the most was that the silver needles pierced their bodies, causing an indescribable pain to erupt inside them. Their bodies fell to the ground in just a few seconds. Every muscle in their bodies was convulsing and their bodies were distorted. Blue veins and blood vessels protruded all over their bodies as they convulsed and rolled on the ground. Tan Xiu ignored them for the time being and even ignored Akka. He looked at Yao Qinglong and said with a smile, "I don't think I need to tell you what will happen to you next, right? Since I have the ability to kill your Yao family's patriarch and destroy your family, it means that my strength is very terrifying, far beyond your imagination. So I want to know everything about you, including the businesses you do abroad, the wealth you have, the organization you joined, and so on. Of course, if you tell me honestly and pay a big price, I can guarantee that you'll live." Yao Qinglong looked at his 2 junior brothers on the ground, who were howling in pain like wild beasts. A chill instantly spread all over his body. Tan Xiu's threat to Akka just now was actually a threat to him. He was perfectly aware of the divine doctor's ability, and he was even more aware that the divine doctor of China was even more terrifying than those international Western medicine experts and professors. Can you really guarantee my safety? Yao Qinglong deeply looked at Tan Xiao and then at Qi Nan and Aka. Finally, he asked with a deathly ashen face. Of course, but it depends on your performance. Tan Xiao nodded and said. I'm not an executioner, and I don't like killing people. Else, none of your Yao family's clansmen will be alive now. Alright, I'll tell you everything. I just hope you can keep your promise, said Yao Qinglong in a deep voice. Aka's expression greatly changed and he angrily shouted, Yao Qinglong, have you forgotten the organization's doctrine? You'll die a very, very miserable death if you tell others. Yao Qinglong shook his head and said, I know I'll die a very miserable death if I tell you. But if I don't tell you now, I'm afraid I'll die even more miserably. Aka, Tan Xiao is very terrifying. He's definitely the most terrifying person I've ever met. He can make your instructor his subordinate. Don't tell me you haven't realized this. Aka gasped for a few times and fell into silence. Afterward, Yao Qinglong told him in detail that he received an order from the Yao family's patriarch, Yao Qingzuan, to manage his business abroad more than a decade ago. The Yao family operated a variety of businesses abroad and invested a lot of money. After more than a decade of development and Yao Qinglong's ruthlessness, he secretly occupied the businesses of several families. Eventually, his total assets had reached tens of billions of dollars. Later on, with the help of the Stygian Club, he trained a large number of people abroad and secretly devoured the wealth of a lot of rich and powerful people. He also destroyed many small families and tycoons and took a lot of money for himself. The power he possessed was only slightly worse than the Yao family in the imperial capital. The Stygian Club was an organization with 3 major forces as its core and 12 families as its combined force. It also had more than 40 affiliated forces. Nowadays, the power possessed by the Stygian Club was definitely among the top 3 in the world. Additionally, the Stygian Club had dozens of teams such as an assassin department, intelligence department, regulatory department, mercenary team, security team, financial team, and so on. There were countless talents inside. Aka was a member of the assassin department, and his rank was only in the hundreds. After listening to Yao Qinglong's story, everyone in the room was shocked. Even Tan Xiao looked solemn, faintly feeling the terror of the Stygian Club. Who's the most powerful person in the Stygian Club? Tan Xiao found that Yao Qinglong didn't mention this point, so he immediately asked in a deep voice. I don't know. Yao Qinglong shook his head. Tan Xiao looked at Aka and indifferently asked, Can you tell me? I won't tell you even if I know, said Aka. But I really don't know. Nobody knows who the Stygian Club's leader is, unless it's the top members of the 3 major forces and the 12 families. Yao Qinglong, I won't ask any more since you don't know. Tan Xiao nodded. What I want to know is why you came back to China. And why are you targeting the Magnificent Tang Corporation? Are you the one who wants the Magnificent Tang Corporation's product formulas? Or is it the Stygian Club's people who want those formulas? It's Ying Daofu, the Moya family's patriarch. He's also one of the 12 family's powerful figures. Yao Qinglong seemed to be ready to throw caution to the wind. Tang Xiao nodded and said, Kill the rest except for Yao Qinglong. Immediately. The Everlasting Feast Hall's experts instantly moved and easily killed Aka, Du Yanghe, and Qiu Jian. Yao Qinglong secretly felt lucky inwardly. He found that his choice was right. He knew that Tan Xiao was ruthless, so he cooperated and told everything. Even if he concealed some things, he firmly believed that everything he said would have a very important effect on Tan Xiao. Yao Qinglong, I found that you're the only wonderful person in your Yao family, said Tan Xiao with a smile. I promised you that I wouldn't kill you, but I didn't say that my men won't kill you. But I think you're a good man, so I'll give you a chance to live. The worry inside Yao Qinglong's heart finally vanished along with Tan Xiao's words. He knew that he would have to pay a huge price, but he wouldn't hesitate even if he had to sacrifice everything in order to survive. Hence, he seriously said, "Mr. Tang, please tell me, transfer all the wealth you control to my name," said Tan Xiu. "I'll send someone to follow you abroad to take over everything you have. You should be aware that the more you have, the more threat you'll be to me. So it's up to you." Yao Qinglong was silent for a moment before he slowly said, "I'll make a phone call first and ask my men to transfer all my savings in the Swiss bank to your name. Also, transfer all the liquid funds of several large companies I control to you. The rest of the industries will be handed over to your men later." A wise man submits to circumstances. Tan Xiu gave a thumbs up and praised, "You're very good, Qi Nan. I'll leave this matter to you. I'll contact Xiao Xue later and ask her to send some men to you." "Understood." Qi Nan's eyes lit up and she immediately replied excitedly. This was Tan Xiu delegating power to her, and it was a great authority. She knew that if she could handle this matter well, her status in the everlasting feast hall would be greatly improved. At the very least, she would be on par with Hao Lei and Tianli. "Do you agree to my solution?" Tan Xiu looked at Yang Lu and asked. Yang Lu wanted Yao Qinglong to die, because Yao Qinglong would always be a problem for him. However, since Tan Xiu wanted Yao Qinglong's wealth, it would be very difficult for him to kill Yao Qinglong. Although he was somewhat dissatisfied, he still nodded silently. "All right, I believe Yao Qinglong won't bother you anymore in the future," said Tan Xiu. "Am I right, Yao Qinglong?" "I promise that I'll avoid Yang Lu even if I see him in the future," said Yao Qinglong quickly. Tan Xiu nodded with satisfaction. Then, an undetectable voice entered Yang Li's ears, "Since you want to go abroad, I think it's a good choice to go with Qi Nan to have fun. After everything is settled smoothly, you can deal with Yao Qinglong as you want. Brothers and sisters, you're too awesome." Today's third update. Chapter 574. Tan Xiu didn't expect that he would be able to solve the threat of Yao Qinglong due to an accident. At the same time, he also learned some very secretive things. He had long been aware of the existence of the Stygian Club. There were huge forces in this world, such as the one who had attacked his father. He had already sent some people to investigate the existence of the Stygian Club and believed that he would soon get the specific information. Wealth and armed forces. What Tan Xiu needed to consider the most at present, aside from his own cultivation advancement, were these two things. He needed to accumulate wealth continuously and use it to develop the armed forces, train a large number of elite martial artists, and have more power to speak in this world. Inside the villa, Tan Xiu put away all his thoughts and gave medical advice to Dai Xinyue before returning to the bedroom on the second floor. Yang Lu had already left and secretly followed Qi Nan. Qi Nan had also taken Yao Qinglong away and was ready to secretly take him abroad to receive his wealth. Tan Xiu wasn't the kind of person who would keep his words, and there were times when he would go back on his words. However, he was dealing with the enemy at this time, and his words were worth 1,000 gold to his own people. The next day, just as Tan Xiu arrived at the campus, he was stopped by Mu Weining at the campus gate. Mu Weining had obviously put on some light makeup today, and her beauty was out of this world. "Can you skip class today, boyfriend?" Mu Weining said with a faint smile on her face. Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing and said, "I'm a good student and never have the habit of skipping classes. However, it's rare for my girlfriend to ask, so it's not impossible if you have a good reason." Pfft. Mu Weining covered her mouth and chuckled, "My business has been developing well recently and I've made some money. So I'm going to buy a house outside and stay in Shanghai after I graduate." "You want to stay in Shanghai?" Tan Xiu was surprised. "Why?" "To avoid disputes and troubles," said Mu Weining. "You mean your family?" Tan Xiu asked thoughtfully. The smile on Mu Weining's face faded and a bit of helplessness appeared in her bright eyes. She nodded and said, "My family may not be as big as your Tang family, but we're not as united as your family. If it wasn't for my grandfather, the family would have long been torn apart. Recently, my grandfather's health hasn't been very good. Although there's nothing serious, my uncles have started to get restless. I'm staying in Shanghai alone to develop my career. It's also to leave a way out for myself in the future. You're right about that. Tan Xiu nodded and said, it's necessary to avoid it as early as possible since we're not going to fight for power and wealth. Let's go. I'll accompany you to see the house. Mu Weining smiled, but there were some things in her heart that she didn't say. She decided to stay in Charm City to develop, not only because of her family's dispute, but also because of Tan Xiu. She knew very well that Tan Xiu would probably not settle down in Shanghai in the future. At the very least, he would have to stay in Shanghai for the next 4 years. She was a woman who found it hard to fall in love, but once she did, it would be hard for her to restrain herself and she would be dead set on a man. Even though she knew that with Tan Xiu's ability, he would never be able to have only one woman in the future. But if she wanted to fight for her own happiness, then she must take the initiative. At the very least, she had to let Tan Xiu have a place for her in his heart. Today, Tan Xiu didn't drive but walked to the campus instead. Therefore, the duo strolled back to the Blue Star Villa complex and came to the front of the villa's garage. This is the Koenigsegg. As the electric door slowly opened, Mu Weining, who was standing outside, saw the luxury sports car parked outside. Tan Xiu blinked and suddenly recalled that his aunt, Tang Min, had called him when he went to Jingmen Island some time ago. She said that there was a good foreign luxury sports car, so she ordered it for him and even delivered it to the Blue Star Villa complex. He had been driving the Land Rover Range Rover since he came back, and it was parked directly in the courtyard. He had never opened the garage, so he had never seen this sports car. He didn't know much about luxury cars, so he didn't even know the name of this sports car. Mu Weining didn't wait for Tan Xiu's reply and hurriedly ran to the front of the sports car. She found that it was stained with some dust, so she personally found a towel and a basin of water and wiped it with all seriousness. It didn't take long for the new sports car to appear in front of the duo. Tan Xiu had been watching Mu Weining busying herself. Finally, after Mu Weining threw the towel into the basin, he said with a smile, since you like this car, then let's drive it out for a stroll today. It shouldn't be a problem to show off once in a while. That's great. Mu Weining giggled. I've only seen the appearance and introduction of this car in car magazines before, but I've never seen the real thing. Is this car very famous? Tan Xiu curiously asked. Mu Weining looked at Tan Xiu with a strange expression and said, the name Koenigsegg isn't a household name in the supercar industry, and its fame can't be compared to Ferrari and Bugatti. But this Swedish company's Adra R sports car is equipped with a twin-turbocharged V8 engine with a maximum output of 1,124 horsepower and a top speed of 440 km per hour. What's more frightening is that it only takes 2.8 seconds to accelerate from 0 to 100 km per hour, and only 11.7 seconds to reach a terrifying speed of 300 km per hour. Do you know how much its selling price is? How much? Asked Tan Xiu with a blank expression. 10 million, said Mu Weining seriously. Despite having a lot of money, Tan Xiu was still taken aback by the 10 million figure. He never expected that his aunt, Tang Min, would spend so much. The total value of the 4 cars before was more than 10 million, and now the price of this car was more than 10 million. This, was she asking him to squander? How is it? Mu Weining smiled. Big Boss Tang, are you also shocked by this number? Tan Xiu shook his head and said, it's not that I'm shocked. I just feel that it's a bit extravagant. After all, it's very difficult for an ordinary person to earn 10 million in their lifetime, yet this car costs so much. It's really strange, said Mu Weining curiously. You don't seem to know your own car. I went to Jingmen Island a few days ago, said Tan Xiu with a forced smile. My aunt called me and said that she had booked a car for me abroad. She had already given me 4 cars, and I thought that she just casually ordered one, so I didn't take it seriously. I've been driving that Land Rover ever since I came back. It was because Chinan drove that car last night, so I opened the garage door for the first time after I came back. Who would have thought that? It turned out to be such a luxurious sports car. Your aunt really dotes on you too much, exclaimed Mu Weining. Anyways, let's go, boyfriend. Drive this car and take me out for a stroll. How about you drive it? Asked Tan Xiao hesitantly. Mu Weining thought for a moment and said with a smile, then I'll drive it. This luxurious sports car must be awesome to drive. 2 minutes later. Mu Weining drove the Adrar sports car out of the Blue Star Villa complex's gate. Just the journey to the villa attracted a lot of attention. The several security guards on duty stood straight and saluted more vigorously than before. A nice car and a beautiful woman. Suddenly, Tang Xiao had a feeling that he seemed to have turned into a second-generation hedonistic son of a rich family with luxurious cars and beautiful women. If he were to hold a glass of red wine and smoke a cigarette, wouldn't that be the life of a celestial being? Weining, do you want to go for a drink after we're done looking at the house? I seem to have passed by several good bars with a good atmosphere, said Tan Xiao with a smile. Sure, said Mu Weining with a shallow smile. Where are we going to look at the house? Asked Tan Xiao with a faint smile. Have you investigated it before? I've checked it on the internet. I'm quite optimistic about the Lauren Villa complex, said Mu Weining. But the location of the villa is a bit far. It's more than an hour's drive from my company, and that's if there's no traffic jam. The Century Classic Villa complex is good, but it's not a standalone villa. I like that kind of standalone villa, preferably one with a private swimming pool. Tan Xiao hesitated for a moment and said, then, let's both go and have a look. We'll decide which one we like in the end. All right. Mu Weining nodded with a smile. The Adrar sports car was like a super attractive magnet as it drove on the street, attracting the attention of many people. Many of them looked envious and jealous, fantasizing that they could own such a cool and handsome luxury supercar one day. At the Lauren Villa complex, Han Jintong was comfortably sitting on the balcony of the villa building, basking in the sun and smoking a cigarette. Having lived to his age, he had already accepted a lot of things. Therefore, apart from cultivating every day, he enjoyed the rest of his life. It could be said that he lived the most comfortable life among the residents in the entire villa complex. Of course, his popularity was also the best. It would be even more perfect if second brother and his family of 3 came back from abroad. Han Jintong squinted his eyes and looked at the scenery of the villa complex in the distance. However, he was slightly surprised when a luxury sports car slowly drove into the villa complex. Because he would bask in the sun here every day on a sunny day, and recently, he had seen more than half of the luxury cars in the villa complex. But he was sure that he had never seen this very handsome sports car. Which family's prodigal kid got a new car again? Han Jintong sighed. His eyes followed the car until it stopped in front of the property management building 200 or 300 meters away. Because he could see the parking lot in front of the property management building from where he stood. When the luxury sports car stopped and a man and a woman got out of the car, his expression changed and he let out a soft cry of surprise. Tan Xiao. Han Jintong admitted that he was old, but he would never admit that he was presbyopic. He clearly recognized that the handsome young man was Tan Xiao. He was very afraid of Tan Xiao's identity and wanted to establish some friendship with Tan Xiao. It was a pity that his precious granddaughter was Tan Xiao's teacher, and there seemed to be some unhappiness between the two. Otherwise, he would have hoped that his granddaughter, Han Qinggu, could become Tan Xiao's girlfriend, and it would be best if she could become his wife in the future. Today's first update, the monthly votes have exploded, the game continues. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.